just like 30 seconds or so, we'll be sitting here kind of like staring at everybody, a little bit silent. They're probably hearing me talking right now, honestly, and that's okay. Uh, so I'm just going to go ahead after I see this pop up. Let me refresh, make sure that we're live.
We're not whispering sweet nothings right now.
We definitely are not.
Well, and everybody should share it.
Let's see. All right, we're live. All right, cool. What's up, everybody? James Corbett here with Project Refit. We're doing the FML episode a little bit different today. We're not doing it through our normal streaming service, which is why you didn't get that sweet little countdown. Anyway, we're here today with Jason Moon. He's an Army combat veteran. He is also a musician, and he is the founder of Warrior Songs. So that is an organization that helps out warriors in creating music and through music. So what we're planning on doing is talking to Jason today, getting his story and finding out a point in time when he was for his life. But before all of that, and before we jump into Jason, I'm going to do a quick update for everybody on what's happening here at Project Refit. So Project Refit has been hard at work. We have the truck. We've already taken a mission. We're going on another mission. We're going down to Louisiana next week. We're actually bringing one of our guys here from New Jersey, Anthony Rocco. He likes to go by Rocco. He's coming with us. He's an Army veteran, and he'll be traveling down to Louisiana with us to help rebuild a police officer's roof. It's collapsing in on itself. We have a special forces operative that's down there right now. It's going to be coming out, helping out his father and a couple other his buddy volunteers. And then we probably have some more volunteers coming out too. So if you want to volunteer, you want to go to Louisiana, or if you live in Louisiana or know anybody that lives in Louisiana near New Orleans, it's actually Bridge City, Louisiana. Please send them our way. And we're going to go ahead and help them out. We also have a car cruise coming up August 15th, cornhole tournament August 26th, the gala September 18th, and a softball tournament that we're working on for October 9th and 10th. So that's really exciting stuff. We're partnered up with an organization on that. Now, all of that's out of the way. Let's go ahead and jump into Jason, because that's the most important thing today. I want to hear Jason's story. I want to know who Jason is, and I think everybody else does too. So Jason, go ahead, brother. Take it away.
All right. Hi, my name is Jason Moon. I served in the Wisconsin Army National Guard for 10 years, 724 combat engineers, and got my all-expense paid trip vacation to Iraq, 0304. Came back and started to struggle right away with some symptoms, insomnia, depression, anxiety, couldn't be in crowded spaces, had no real way to deal with it. Spent 4 years trying to do the whole, I'm a tough veteran and I can do this on my own. And I don't need any help. And then finally in 2008, spring 2008, I attempted to end my own life. I woke up from that suicide attempt, and something had changed because, PTSD had done something that the bad guys tried to do to all us downrange, and that hurt me. And once I woke up from that suicide attempt, it suddenly reframed the entire thing, that this was a real enemy, and I needed to defeat it. So I got real into therapy. I spent the whole 2009 to anything. I would have taken underwater basket weaving to be able to offer, like anything they offered, Tai Chi. These were all things I just kind of was like, I would never try before. And one of the things that was journaling and writing. I said, no, I don't write journals. I write songs. And they said, why don't you try writing songs as a therapist? And so I did. And I started writing songs, and I wrote an entire volume of my experience called Trying to Find My Way Home. And it was really just supposed to be for me.
Love that.
And then I started sharing it with an organization called Soldier's Heart. I'd gone to a PTSD retreat right after my suicide there. And they started sharing it. And all of a sudden I started getting phone calls from veterans. This big Marine punches me one day. He says, how'd you get in my head? You made me cry in front of my friends. That was one of the exchanges. Another one, though, the most impactful one, was from a mother. I had gotten like 9, or it was about the 9th one, and I'm a spiritual guy. So I said, if I get one more of these letters saying that this music is speaking, beyond my own mental walls, I'm going to do something about it. It was kind of a dare. And then I got an email from a woman. Her son had been there the same time I was there, in Khalil Air Base, where I was working in and around, and had attempted suicide 3 times. And just like me, he didn't have a problem and didn't need any help. And she said she played him Trying to Find My Home off this CD. He broke down and cried, went to the VA, told him what he had been through, went to the VA next day, and he's doing pretty good. And that was it. I was ready to get a PhD in religious studies at Marquette University, Milwaukee, and I just put my whole life on hold. And I said, I'm going anywhere anyone will listen to talk about what we go through with PTSD and how hard it is to reintegrate. And that was 2011. Since then, I've traveled 500,000 miles. We've produced 3 volumes. We've given services to 50,000 veterans, all of it free. We do creative arts retreats, and we've given out 50,000 CDs. I think I already said, but most importantly, 34 confirmed suicides. 34 of those letters. So that's what I do. And
yeah, that's how I found you actually. And when I got back from my first deployment, I was in Afghanistan. So Mo and I actually were in Afghanistan together, 2013 to 14, and I got blown up twice there. The first one was the kicker and combat and all that shit. And then the second deployment, I waived my dwell time and went to Africa 4 months after I got back. And we went to Djibouti, Africa. It was nothing at all. But that's where I started noticing some shit wasn't right. And I literally I started therapy when I got back from that second deployment, and I was not committed to it at all. I was giving it nothing, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then I don't know if it's when I started my CPT or not, but I went on YouTube and I typed in PTSD songs, and the first one that came up was Trying to Find My Way Back Home, and I was like, I'll give it a shot. And right there I was like, fuck. What I'm thinking, but in a song, and it's I can't verbalize what I'm thinking, or I couldn't then. And that did it right in that moment that I listened to it. I still have it on my phone right now. I still listen to it.
I appreciate that, and it's like I didn't plan that, and it kind of snuck up on me. And I actually spent those 4 years in complete isolation. I got off the plane in Wisconsin with the National Guard. I was stop loss for 11 months. I gave the 2 middle fingers to Uncle Sam, and I called up the chain of command, got out of the last meeting because I knew there'd be a drug test, and I was already 11 months past due, and I learned all the regs on stop loss and had been fighting them the whole time. So 4 years of just like, it's just me. This song is just happening to me. I'm weak. I'm a bad soldier, and everybody else who's home is doing okay. Just me is having these issues, and I didn't ask for help. I didn't talk to anyone. I was ashamed. Mm-hmm. I thought if I leaned over to my buddies and said that I'd be ripped. And you guys all know when you're downrange, your strength is the core. You stay alive in your unit by staying useful and strong and unbreakable. And
yeah.
But then we bring that home, and then we continue to kind of have this. So I appreciate that guy in your.
Yeah, it's especially now because I've been in therapy since 2016, so it takes a lot to reach me now, where in the beginning it was anything reached me really. Now that song still, and I'm not saying this just because you're here, but that's, if I'm in a bad place, that song still hits those chords that I need to be hit, that the regular shit doesn't necessarily touch. But I think back on what you were just saying about the feeling weak, especially downrange and shit, you get taught there that you're as strong as your weakest link. Once there's a weak link, you're fucked. And you don't want to be that weak link, especially for something that's as silly in your mind back then, or whatever place you're in, as mental health, as whether you can be strong enough to handle it or not. And that does immediately get brought back straight to the state. That doesn't stop when you get home at all.
Yeah. I'll never forget, first of all, anyone who's been on race knows you can't go up to your squad leader and say, I can't sleep at night. Dude's just going to put you on 24-hour shift for 3 days and say, can you sleep now?
Yep.
But, we had a guy in our unit who I think he was, I don't know. I thought he was trying to get home at the time. Now I wasn't the same person. I wasn't.
Right.
Now I think he truly had issues. His wife was cheating on him, but at the time I was not a supporter of him. And he had gone on to the psychiatrist a few times, and we had to drive him up to Doha, and people were getting, we were exposed to in that, so we're taking him. And, one day we're sitting around, and he's not there. He's on his way up to Doha, and an upper sergeant says, rounds go off, first bullet goes in the back of his head. And whether this was under the table or he was joking or whatnot, but that was like my cue, like, I'm good. I got no issues. you know, I'd go when something bad would happen. I'd go in the porta potties to cry just so that no one would see me. I was having trouble with my wife. My ex-wife wasn't letting me speak to my son. We had six phones for 6 hours, and you sit and wait in line for 4 hours.
Mhm.
To have your ex-wife, you know, it was just too much. But it was, you know, I'm solid.
Wasn't breaking.
I'm not breaking. You got it. I'm not like that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so and then we get home and we can't stop that pattern, and that's, I guess, the power of this CD. Now I don't know if the whole CD got you or just that one song.
Yeah, I have the whole thing. I have the whole thing saved on my Spotify. I listen to it all.
But for me, that was the moment when other veterans started saying, "Dude, this is what I'm feeling too." And I had a show I started called 3 Things Never to Say to a Veteran that I give. It's a presentation started like that, based on, like, as my recovery, all these things that people would say, how many people you get to kill, you know? And I'd be like, Jesus Christ, why would you ask that? No one, thankfully, but now you think I'm not a real veteran.
Right,
Right. People have, and they feel so. So it started out as 3, and as I went around the country speaking anywhere people would ask, giving these presentations, just singing these songs, and as I would go, veterans would come up to me and go, you know what I hated is when people say what they would have done had they gone. So then it became 4 things to never say to a veteran.
Oh shit, yeah, they just kept growing.
And now it's 7 things never say to a veteran. I have a CD somewhere. I've given the presentation over 300 times, and so that's kind of, if it's a good segue. So I was in 2011. Now I'm starting to feel a lot better. I mean, not, but you know what I mean when you get out of it's not a constant threat. And you've got a handle on what it is, but you're not in any way winning that fight. You're just kind of winning it some of the days. But it's
your head's above water.
Yeah, it's not going to kill you anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want any VA employee from the DoD to see this and be like, oh, he's better. No, that's not it. But so
No.
I was singing at this retreat for I don't want to say the name because I don't want to give away identities. But I was singing at this retreat, 2011, and this woman comes up to me. She's same thing as you, Pete, trying to find my home in that CD. You know, it got through to her, and it speaks to her, and it comes to her. She says to me, she takes me aside, she says, you know, I was raped in the Navy. That, not me, her. This is her speaking. She tells me she was raped in the Navy. I don't have experience with them in this case. Let me get clear. And she knows this, but I think if someone could turn my trauma into a song the way you did with your PTSD, that I would have a similar healing. And that was the moment I was like, who's doing that? You know, and I was lower enlisted in the combat engineers. So you find yourself saying, who's doing that? Guess what, idiot? You just volunteered.
It's you. You volunteered yourself.
You volunteered. You know?
Yeah, it's you now.
Something needs to be done, and no one's doing it.
Shouldn't have said nothing, bub.
Yeah, so for a lot of the time, for the first couple of years, I was like, you know, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? So then we started collecting these stories and helping other veterans take their trauma and turn it into songs. Now there's a lot of organizations that are really great, but I believe we're one of the only ones that then puts them out on these themed compilations. So we take a whole bunch of veterans and we match them up with songwriters. We get them to tell their stories, and then we give them out for free. We've given out 50,000 CDs. I did this one. You guys interrupt me if you want to, which was just general veterans. I just talked to the people I knew, and this came out in 2016. About 100 different artists, 26 veterans, and it turned out very white and very male because I'm very white and very male. So I got some criticism, and I did what any good combat engineer does when they get criticized. We answered it. So this is the first in the history of modern music, all women veteran stories. It won Wisconsin Music Album of the Year. It won the Native American Pop Song of the Year. And it was 5 women led the leadership committee. So the groundbreaking work.
Yeah, that's insane.
Let's go.
You want an education about MST. Wow, did I get one? I really didn't know. And the more I learned, the more I was like, that is just not right.
Mm-hmm.
And
holy shit.
Wow. So there's actually, I don't know. You got to do the math yourself. There's more instances of rape on this CD than there are women who gave testimony.
Hey, Jason, I would love to interview some of those women, bring them on here to talk about that because we're trying to here at Refit, we're really trying to be the balls to the wall. We tell this straight up truth and we're not afraid to say it. And you did it through art. I would like to do it through word and get it out there and really raise the awareness around that because I mean, that's real. And you know what? MST. So I'm the civilian in the group, by the way. What's up? I'm one of the co-founders, but I am a civilian. I think there's a lot of overlap too. Into the real world too, right? Like, well, not real world, but into the civilian world as well, because I think the military world's probably a little bit more real sometimes. But yeah, so I think you know what I'm saying. I think it'd be really good to bring them on and talk to them. I would love that if you're down for that.
Oh, I would, and I'll introduce you to them, obviously, so you can contact directly. And here's one thing I want to tell you. I'm going to say this openly and honestly in
Please.
front of everybody, because I'm looking at 4 dudes here running this program, and my organization is run by a dude too. And when I first started to go into this, I was just like, why would I talk about MST and women veterans issues? They don't want me. Do they want me? And the more I got involved and the more I worked with women veterans and I'm now an ambassador for Women Veterans Social Justice, the more I heard a resounding yes, do whatever you can. Get, the military is male spearheaded. It has been for a long time. And organizations tend to focus on men. And so they were like, they were specifically saying to us guy veterans who run these organizations, yes, please start addressing women veterans issues. Don't make up your own mind.
Right.
A lot of people look at me and go like, you made a CD about women veterans? No, I am maybe an E4, but I'm not an idiot. I got 4 women veterans and 1 Gold Star mother, and completely empowered them with creative control and just facilitated it. So
Let's go.
Yeah, there's a right way to do it. You know?
Yeah, that's the right way, baby.
But yeah, I would love to get you in touch with some of these women. It's amazing in these stories, and
yeah, man.
I'll share one with you about the healing power of art if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead, hit it.
I want to be clear with anyone watching. I have specific permission from this woman to share this story, and this is why my organization moved into. We started with PTSD and suicide. And then we moved into MST to doing that too. We do these creative arts retreats, 4 days, completely paid. Everything is paid for the veteran. And from the first day to the 15 of them, we get a really nice retreat center, and we walk them through deployment, coming home, PTSD, and then where they need to get now, their stuck points. And we use the arts. And in the end, we have an art show open to the public, and people use the arts to kind of express all those things we can't say, much in the way Trying to Find My Home expresses, that thing Daniel said could say. So anyways, at the time, this is 2016, it's PTSD, and I've learned enough about MST to understand that anyone with MST has PTSD, so we're open to MST as well. And we get 4 or 5 women brave enough to sign up, and the rest are all dudes with non-MST PTSD.
Have you gotten any men with MSTs?
We have.
Yep.
We just did our first. I'm getting there. So let me speed this up. So this woman, her story, and again, I have permission. She was in one of the South American wars, and she was taken hostage by her own people. She was taken into a connex and chained to a bed where she was systematically raped by 3 individuals who took turns on her for 6 straight days while they discussed how they would dispose of her body in front of her. Eventually, they just took some pictures and let her go and said, and she was in, she was in this horrible state. She was cutting 20 years. She comes to this retreat. Her friends weren't sure she should come because she was straight out of the VA. And usually we want people to be, we're not that close to the edge. But I was confident, and she told her story, and she got up in front of a room full of 80 strangers, fingers in the podium, just shaking. And she told that story that she had never told. And you could have heard a pin drop in the room. There were men leaving that room wanting to burn their uniform. Never had any idea about MST. But that was the moment. Then 3 months later, I see her at the release of this in Madison, Wisconsin, and she's at a bar in the middle of the bar with her therapy dog, not in the corner, in the middle of the bar with her back to the door. And I walk up behind her cautiously, and I say her name, and she says, "You can put your hand on me." I put my hand on her. It was like, and it wasn't just from this. Now, mind you, she opened that can that she couldn't open publicly, and then she took all of that and went back into therapy. But for 20 years, that was like inaccessible to her. That she didn't think she could do this.
Holy shit, that's strength.
And so now I was one of the Kickstarter supporters of those women army peoples. They just made those. I don't know if you got, but they made plastic army guys. Now they made plastic army women, and so I got a prototype from being one of the first. I'm going to give that to her.
Oh, that's awesome.
Witnessing that was actually when I said we can do an MST retreat. So now, 2019, we did our first all women MST retreat. I staffed it with another. Oh God, he's a very famous male MST survivors. I'll get his name in a second, but and 3 other women, and it was amazing. We had average of 23-point raise in the little test you take when you go into the doctor for PTSD from that. So now we have now we do MST retreats and we do PTSD retreats. And again, I warned you guys I can go off. So,
No,
No,
that's the
that
whole
was
point.
great.
That's literally the point of this. In all honesty, it's for you to go off.
But so that and this is, to me, it's still and those we're trying to get an all male MST retreat, but men are a little harder about being open and coming out, and so we're thinking we might do mixed. This year, coming up this February, we have all women, and then in October in Wisconsin we're doing Vietnam veterans, because our 3rd CD that came out, I just got this yesterday, is Vietnam veterans. So I had this dilemma. Like, we knew we wanted to do both. Women have been overlooked for like 4,000 years, but Vietnam vets are all going to die soon. So we did the women veterans first, and then this is our new one. So this is 14 songs, Vietnam veterans, and it comes.
I love it.
And it's
Are they both on Spotify?
This one comes out officially August 8th.
Okay.
So on August 8th, it'll be available on iTunes and everywhere digital music is
Awesome.
available. You can pre-purchase it on our website now. But the great thing about Worry Songs is if you're a veteran, you just send us an email and say, I'm a veteran, and we send you these CDs free of charge.
I'll be sending you an email.
There you go. So, and just tell us if you and if you work with veterans, you work in veteran healing, we'll send you them for free. You give them out. We're a nonprofit.
Hey, Jason, I
Yeah,
was
can you
just
do
about
that
to-
actually?
I was just about to say that to you. I would love to have some of those CDs sent to us in bulk so we can put it on our mobile base, because our mobile base should be completed soon, and we could have that that could be considered a resource that we give these guys.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. The only thing, because we are a legitimate 501c3 nonprofit, just send the email to info@warriorsongs. Estimate how many you need. I have a board of directors and whatnot, and there's a little bit of the bureaucracy expands to meet the expanding needs of the bureaucracy.
Yeah, we have to do same stuff. I understand.
You send it in that email, and then the board can, it's all.
Yeah, and you got that.
So, and yeah, that's awesome. We'd love to, and we'll send you these. We'll send you these ahead of time. You don't have to wait till August 8th. But and these are, we've got these are things that I don't think anyone here maybe had to deal with, like conscription, the draft, and we got an author, Bretton McKinnon, in hospice from Agent Orange. He's dying currently from Agent Orange, and he sat down with a songwriter and they penned a song about what that's like to die from Agent Orange. I mean, it's some of the stuff on here is just so profound. We've got Dr. Ed Tick, and
I love Dr. Edward Tick. I fucking love him.
Yeah, he's the main. He wrote the foreword.
Did he? I have one of his books in my bureau. It's the first book I read involving my PTSD, and that shit fucking jump started me.
I'll give him credit because he deserves it. He's a civilian, and he wrote War in the Soul. And after my suicide attempt, now our longest-serving board member, Lynn Daly, hosted a yoga T-shirt sale to send me to this retreat. And I'll tell you, I was, like Daniel said, I wasn't cooperating with support. So I waited till the last minute and said, you know what? I can't go without my wife. $2,000 more. Sucks to be you. I don't have to go. And they said, no. They went and raised more money. So
you're going.
Me and my wife went to a Soldier's Heart retreat 4 or 5 months after my suicide attempt, and it changed my life. I was in that room. I knew I'd be the only OEF veteran. Sure enough, it's all Vietnam vets. Ed started with Vietnam vets, but I got to be my turn to talk, and I'm like, I get up in the middle of the night, I check the doors, I check all the logs, take my gun, clear the house, and I put it away. I go to bed. 15 minutes later, did you check the doors? Yes. I start talking about, like, I can't go into loud buildings, loud noises, And they started laughing, these 3 Vietnam vets. And they're like, oh, you should see old Joey here. He built a whole freaking Sally port in front of his house. He wouldn't come out of his room for, and all of a sudden just instantly normalized. 4 years of feeling like I was a failure and weak instantly. And I look up to these Vietnam veterans because I think by and large they lived through a hell that, that we did not in Iraq. At least I did not.
And they've been dealing with it for 50, 60. They've been dealing with it for decades.
Yeah,
and they're
and all the crapping on they got by civilians and the VA, so they're, I just, and to hear them just say, buddy, this is.
I get my greatest therapy I do group therapies at the vet centers. And one of my group therapies was a trauma exposure. And I was one of the only OEF, OIF people in there. I think we had one OIF, and then I think there was one other OEF, but the other 12 people were all Vietnam veterans. And they just they say the same fucking shit we say, just on a different topic. And when they say they would never want to be in our war, ever. They would much rather do a Vietnam war.
Yeah.
And it's the same. I think it's the same thing for us. I would never want to fucking be in Vietnam. I'd go back to Afghanistan in a heartbeat before I went to Vietnam.
Yeah. I actually was there recently in Vietnam. It's a beautiful country. I actually went with a group called Children's Library International. They rebuild schools. And wrote a song about veterans who go back and but Dr. Tech is amazing. I wanted to say it was actually his idea that fostered this too. He has this model. If you've read his book, of the warrior's journey and the warrior's return, and these important steps that need to happen, and based off Dr. Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. And one of the steps, and mind you, I've just attempted suicide 4 months ago. My whole life is like upside down. I'm hearing this presentation, and one piece that he points to that's missing in our society is that us veterans should be able to come home and speak our truth without judgment, without needing to, explain it, and that every single civilian should listen, because the guilt that we carry, we did this for everyone, right? And so the guilt I'm carrying should not be mine to carry alone. The pain, this was for the United States of America. I didn't go over there, and I'm supposed to be able to come back here and express what I went through. And this is where the 7 things not to say to a veteran, because I would try this, and I was like, hey, I was in Iraq. I'd be like, hey, was it warm? How many people did you kill? I never did. It'd be this whole, and then it would shut down the conversation. And same with the CDs. This is about, like, when this CD came out, Women at War, when I go somewhere now working with women veterans, this CD precedes me. And this comes, and it gets to that community, and they listen to it. And by the time when I walk in the door, nobody's questioning my motives, because they've listened to the truth of and also when I play these songs, this is amazing as an artist. I've played these songs, this Women at War, like the songs of women discussing their rapes and their recovery from their rape, with other people who are MST survivors, and they instantly knew that song came from a real survivor. That there's no way
you can't fabricate the details that are in that song.
You cannot imagine this pain.
Right.
You can't fabricate. You wouldn't. And I think maybe that's something that with you're trying to find one home touching you. And it's like this kind of, which is weird because I thought it was just me. And I think this is the most important thing about this work, is that it's why we give it away for free. Because, these songs get into these veterans who are sitting right now in the suicide recovery wards thinking, should I get up? Should I go to therapy tomorrow? Should I give up? Should I pull the trigger? And they're right there with that person in that moment.
I think it's that level of loneliness. Like, obviously, like, everyone feels alone, but with the PTSD and the suicidal ideations and attempts, I think that the potency of that loneliness is in some ways almost unbeatable if you're that deep down, where that songs like that can't be fabricated, that I know for a fact you experienced and are experiencing those things.
And it's in that loneliness.
I'm not just even if I'm alone and I have my people around me, I still feel alone. Those types of songs, it eliminates that loneliness, the loneliness that can't be eliminated most of the time. Those words and just the way you perfectly touches that darkness.
And with the songs we continue. Oh, go ahead.
I really want to listen to the music. I firmly believe, and I'm sure everybody on here agrees, music is medicinal in its own way. That's why we all have our own tastes. We all have our own songs. We all experience pain differently, and that's the great thing about various artists, is that everybody has a certain artist that speaks to them. I want to listen to your things because I want to be able to push them onto, not push, but nudge people in the right direction that need to hear these, because PTSD is a very real thing. We deal with it literally every day. One of your songs, brother, can save somebody's life. Like, I am all for, like, just being like, hey, sit down, for lack of a better term, shut the fuck up and listen to this song, man. And then just text me and let me know how you feel. James listens to screaming music. And you know what? I throw on some Tupac. They're two different things, but they get us through, you know?
No, yeah, that's right.
So I'm a folky guy, Americana.
Metal music, by the way, don't disrespect. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that out there. Screaming music.
It is screaming music. You were right.
It's a primordial growl. Come on.
Yes, Mo's on my side. That's
also,
right.
I actually have a question for you, Jason.
Sure.
While we're here, because it really is a common theme a lot of the times, and people like you had been talking about, and everyone's been talking about. It's just people think, right? Just like you thought, just like we thought. It's like nobody else. What's wrong with me? Like, why am I experiencing? And a lot of that has to do with the whole suffer in silence mentality. That's a huge, huge problem with the military, that the military still, they're getting a little better at it, but they still hang on to it hardcore. Where do you think the failure is? And why do you think suffer in silence, right? Like, who's the onus on? Is it on the individual or is it on the leadership? I think I know you're probably going to guess where I'm going with this.
I mean, that's a tough one, because I, to be completely honest, before I dealt with PTSD, I was the kind of person who thought, maybe you could get over it by a little more effort. Until I couldn't. I'm ashamed of that, but it's true. I didn't have a mental illness. And when I was in Iraq and they were kind of treating that one guy like he was the weakling, I can say I wasn't in disagreement. I was in disagreement with the extreme of the measure that person considered taking that day, but I certainly thought that person should just be jettisoned from our unit as fast as possible for the safety of our unit. So, but then again, there were times when, dude got a Dear Jody letter after just coming home on leave, and his wife of 20 years broke up with him, and that seems like a real time when everyone should have come around that guy, and but it was just left to his battle buddy, and there was I don't know, I never found that tight-knit support there. We didn't lose anybody, thank God. So, and then we get home, and then it continues, and it almost gets worse, because we're no longer able to bust each other's chops and then go out tomorrow and endure some visually obvious courage test, as we roll down the street, or we can prove our toughness on a daily basis down in Iraq, and our youthfulness, or downright. But we get home and there's no real thing. And I know I spent time during 2006, before I got therapy, I would have these moments where I would just feel really weak and unresolved in that thing, and I'd get drunk and go to Milwaukee and find the biggest guy in a bar and I'd go walk down the dangerous neighborhood. I just try to get into conflict, and I think I never really grasped it, but as you say this, I think it was because I wanted a conflict, because I wanted to reestablish my place in the unit. And I can handle a conflict, even if they're bigger than me, even if it's more. I don't care. I don't care how many times you hit me. I'm getting back up. I needed somehow, but it was all internal in my own brain. And then, of course, you wake up from those. I don't know how many in the room have PTSD. You wake up from those things, and you're like, you effing idiot. Who was that? What were you thinking? And that's when you dump all the booze down. I got this now. I'm good, never again. And there's a song on the Trying to Find Home called, this is the what's it called? Oh, God, I forget. The Best of Me. This is the last time, because I'd stare in the mirror and I'd be like, this is the last time, and this was this whole I can do this, but that was the trap, because I thought that if I asked for help, then I'd be like that dude that was getting shipped up.
Well, in that, I mean, in a way, it's learned behavior. right?
Yeah.
From basic training onto, or whatever branch you're in, like whatever you're like, whatever they call it, boot camp or whatever. It's ingrained in you, and I mean, you get smoked as a whole. When one person messes up, everyone gets fucked up. And so that mentality starts from the beginning, that you just got to suck it up. You just got to suck it up. And then your NCOs, your leadership, right? Your officers, they're reinforcing that. If you have, sometimes there's solid leadership where they're a little more open, but a lot of the time they're not, because the common theme was, you know what, when I was a Joe, my NCOs, my leadership fucked me up this way for the dumbest things. And so because I went through it, you must now go through it, right? Wrong fucking answer when you look back on it, but that is the theme. So now, and I think a lot of that, when you get out, right, you come back home, and I mean, for your case too, because I'm currently in the reserves right now. So I'm ETSing soon. I was active duty first, switched over. So I've seen both worlds, and it sucks on the guard and reserve side, because you're trying to balance a regular life with all of that shit. So you're half in, half out all the time. And it's a really weird existence. So with that, it's like you come back and you're used to having all these people around you that expect you to suffer in silence. They expect you to behave a certain way, right? If you didn't have that level of leadership that was setting a different tone. So then what do you do when you leave the military? Just like you had mentioned, it's an unconscious thing. And I think that's why it's so powerful when people who are used to that mentality of suffer in silence, right? It's an internal thing. I can't suck it up. I can't deal with it. So there is something wrong with me. But the moment, like, they listen to your song, right? Like Dan and all the other examples you brought up, or somebody openly just discusses, like, I went through this shit. Like the women you were talking about with MST, they're like, this fucking happened. Other people will hear that and they're like, shit, like this is a reality. It's normal to feel like shit after something like this. It's normal to get upset. It's normal to get down in the dumps. Like, that's part of the process of actually internalizing it and trying to recover. But then you get stuck there when you don't hear those things, because now you're stuck and it's festering, and it's like this seed of just discontent that grows, and you can't do anything about it.
And it doesn't just stay right there. That grows. That's resentment that grows into every facet of your life.
It branches out and it affects it, and you don't even know. So I think it's really important, like what you're doing, and when people are just people that are actually open about this kind of shit. You know, like my first combat experience, I was picking up a dude's testicle that was like blown out of the sack, and I was like, wow, New Year's Day, like, welcome to Afghanistan. Like, this is great, you know. And he was dead. He was dead at shit, so he wouldn't marry it, you know. But it's like those kind of experiences.
He wouldn't mind.
Yeah, he wouldn't mind. But like, I laugh about it now, but I know I'm masking about it when I say that shit. And I'm very recently realizing how much I mask that kind of shit because of that. You know, so it's
proud of you, Mo.
But it's important. It's important to say these things. Go ahead,
Don't
Jason.
say to me. I mean it.
You add into, like, when I can't speak for anyone else, but before Iraq, yes, I had been taught all this tough suck it up stuff, but it was kind of over there like an education, you know, that I could choose to. It motivated me and it influenced me, and it was definitely part of my identity, but it was not something that was like innate to my being. But after it, like, literally helped me stay alive in the war zone, then it became part of my PTSD. Then it became this kind of subconscious thing where, like, when I'm sitting here talking to you guys and I started to kind of get emotional speaking about the CDs, I still feel like I'm suddenly with my unit, and I'm about to cry in front of a bunch of veterans, and it's gonna, you know, and it's not illogical. People with PTSD know that it's not up here. It's just here, like, oh, you know, something, like, don't do that. Something's dangerous, and you start getting the triggers, and so then you're trying to overcome your masculinity and cry because you know it's good, but then you're dealing with the PTSD of the fear of crying at the same time, which just makes you want to cry even more that you're that effed up. So, you know, I don't know.
It makes it worse in the long run, I think.
That's also what we do, though,
right?
Like, sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Dan.
Just for what Project Refit is, we are a peer-to-peer support. Like, that's what we do. This started because we realized that this type of conversation is what pulls pull us out of these dark places. And two, this plants so many fucking seeds that one day the dude or woman is going to be in a bad place and they'll remember something. You know what I mean? It's just small shit like that. This group, and I'm not saying it because we're it, but this group it brings back that level of camaraderie that we had in the military, but not because I think we can all agree that a lot of that was toxic as fuck. Like, it was fun and it was necessary back then, but as adults healing and growing, some of that shit back from that camaraderie does not pertain here.
The dark humor, like when you laugh to cover how you picked up another soldier's testicle, and obviously the minute you say it, I'm thinking like, if I'm there, I'm next. Like, how am I? I don't want to lose. You know, you just all the things that start going through my head, but you just kind of that dark humor of, you know, you see a dead body, you just make a joke. And
you know what I actually did with that one? I was I don't know, and I guess maybe it was because from my past before the military, I was so good at masking. I come from a Middle Eastern family that was you know, living in the States, dealing with kids that were born and raised in the States from you know, like different cultures. So when I was picking up that dude's testicle, I didn't even know what I was holding at first, because at that point we had picked up all the big parts. And I was just standing there for like a few minutes trying to figure out, in my mind, like the only thought that I would allow to enter my head was just, where does this belong in the human body? I was only allowing my curiosity to engage because I just didn't recognize it at first. I'm like, what the fuck is this? It was out of the sack and everything, so I couldn't recognize it. Yeah. And then the light bulb hit and I was like, oh no. And Doc looked at it.
Oh no.
Like, that's you know, and I was like, oh man.
Oh geez.
So I think we need to be gentle with ourselves about that humor when we were down there, because like, what else were you supposed to say in that moment? Because
I agree with that, but I think we take it too far. I think it becomes a vice and a tool to mask. I think dark humor is appropriate. It's how I live my life. But I myself take dark humor too far. You know what I mean? There's a point where, yes, you're either going to laugh or cry about something. It's the one of those two things. So yes, let's laugh about it. But if you're only laughing and you're only laughing nonstop and you're continuously avoiding, because that's what it is, that's just going to grow. It's going to ferment. You're going to feel resentment, like we talked about earlier.
I almost disagreed. I almost disagreed with you, but then you made it make sense completely, because it is a mask and it is appropriate and healthy. My mom, so she's a nurse, right? And nurses and doctors, EMTs, those guys, police officers, all of them have dark senses of humor, and it's a way to cope. But I agree, Dan. It does get to a point where, hey, we got to like talk about this with somebody to get through so we can live happy. I agree with you, Dan.
I think that's one of the main features of the toxic masculinity, if you will, if we even want to call it. But that male bravado, that alpha mentality, that is hard to reach in the mental health realm. I think that's one of the main. I'm going to sit here and joke about all the military shit I did. We see people do it. That's a mask. We need to break that mask down. Why are you joking about it? Why do you really think it's funny, or are you just trying to lighten the situation and hope somebody actually talks about that topic?
Yeah, I think I'd reiterate too, like, my point was that I understood it downrange, you know, in the moment. But then when it continues at home, you know, and it's hard, and because we all do it and we all forgive each other for doing it, and no one wants to. I don't want to stop right now, Mo. If you really want to talk about how that right now or if we're out at a restaurant right now, we're gonna have this moment. But then the other point that it's never appropriate, right, for a hardcore warrior to cry. So we kind of do work ourselves into. Well,
that's what we're told.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're told, and I think we all here agree that it is appropriate. You know, it is appropriate. It is okay, and that
absolutely fucking is.
Picking up a person's dead body, someone you may have known on the first day in Afghanistan, like, that's an experience less than 1% of the population has had. Nobody, 99% of people in this world have no clue of how to even rationalize or grasp or deal with that, and that's just one, I'm assuming, Mo, of many stories.
Oh yeah.
So how do we get home? And that's one of the things Warrior Songs really is working on with its art, especially, is bridging that gap. You know, the music can do that, because if you were to tell that story to civilians, you know, you start having to backtrack in, and you start going, we were at the bivouac, and and you have to explain, and it just gets so. And then whenever I have to do that, I start realizing, when I start telling stuff in linear time fashions, like a police report, that's actually when it triggers me. when I start saying it was on Tuesday and I start thinking it was raining, okay, the truck was
Yes.
that if I can just go like that made me feel so horrible as a human being when that happened. And I was, if I could just focus on the emotional impact and the impact and not have to go relive the details. That I do in therapy, but I think that's something we can do for each other too. And to your end, Daniel, I'd love to hear what you guys, your comments on one-upman. You ever one-upping?
Oh,
Yeah,
boy.
so on our Zooms, so we have Zooms every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They started really kind of when COVID popped off. And we have rules. None of us are certified in fuck all. You know what I mean? So we are not professionals. This is truly a peer-to-peer support system. There's zero fucking diagnosing. If someone's speaking, we have TBIs. If somebody interrupts me, I'm going to forget. It's guaranteed. I'm forgetting what I was talking about. James and them are good at bringing that shit back on track, but let's eliminate that from happening altogether. And then one-upping, yes. It's in the veteran community. I think that, and it goes right back to what we were just talking about, that alpha mentality. They aren't dealing with their issues, and I think them telling their stories and the one-uppers, in their mind, that is them talking about their traumas. But
makes sense.
Exactly. They think in their mind it may be therapeutic because they're doing it their own way, but it's at the expense of everybody else in the room. So it's not healthy, and we direct away from that, in all honesty.
That's a broken alpha mentality, though. That's not a real alpha.
When I say alpha, whenever I refer to alpha
mentality,
I'm only speaking on the negative aspect, or else I'll say like this is a good aspect of alpha male. When I'm talking alpha male, like that bravado shit, I'm speaking on the negative aspects that we experience through it or see through Project Refit.
There's actually, before while we're on the alpha male subject, there was a TED talk I saw a while ago of the guy. It was led by the guy that wrote the book that coined the term alpha male, right? He was writing it about a species of like chimpanzees or something. And he was talking about how the alpha male mentality that people took was not what an actual alpha male was, right? An actual alpha male. I'm just kind of paraphrasing here.
Right.
It was a very interesting TED talk. You should definitely give it a listen. I don't remember the name of it. But he was like, the actual alpha males in those communities of chimpanzees or whatever species of monkey it was, like the ones that would stay were the ones that took care of people or the other part of the group, right? They actually went took care. They recognized those things. They were supportive. They weren't just the ones that were acting as what people think.
Franz de Waal, right?
They would get fucked.
I don't mean to do my own home, but you want to see true masculinity. You make a CD about women that have been raped and help in that and start working in MST, because you got to have a lot of security in your masculinity.
I was just going to say that you got it because I think a lot of men will take that personally, what's being said in there, where it's not a personal. If you're taking it personally,
So the most toxic of males, their accusation is, I am either homosexual and or hooking up with these women. There's no other possible way that a man would be around sexually injured women, and so I just cut them out. But the rest of us understand, we go on. What were you going to say, James?
I was going to say, actually, it's really funny because my mom said to me years and years ago, she said to me, she was like, James, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago. My mom fucking said this to me. It was right after I just joined the domestic violence response team. She was really proud of me. Right. And she said to me, she was like, a true alpha male is someone that cares for their family and cares for other people in their community. And you're doing that every day, and you're doing that more and more for people. And I really appreciate raising you as a son kind of thing. I was like, that makes me want to fucking cry actually right now, even thinking about it. Cause like, that's such an honor for my mom to be so proud of me. Right. And like, it's the hardest thing to do. I don't give a shit where I'm at. If you need to talk, I'll step aside and I'll talk to you. You want to open up about it, I'll step aside and I'll get real with you. I'd rather have those conversations because they're harder. Right. So that's why I feel like this weird thing about the alpha male, where alpha males be like a fucking dickhead, beat you up. Like, sure, I can fight, but I'm going to fight to protect people. You know what I mean? I was never raised. My father put me in fighting since I was 3 years old. I was wrestling and fighting. Right. And the only time I was ever allowed to actually fight anybody is if I was defending someone else. Only time. Right. And there's no other time an alpha should be fighting, because an alpha is supposed to be, as Dan just said, secure in himself, right? Secure in who the fuck he is, because that's when you can stand up in the face of anything, no matter where you're at, because you don't give a shit what people think about you. You're gonna do the right thing.
So don't we all know this from downrange? Like, you know, you can tell somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about because they won't stop talking about how much they did. And you can tell you're in the presence of a real operator because they're pretty much just a few words in those answers, and they never talk about it.
How they hold themselves.
They hold themselves.
Exactly.
Like, so, you know, and I think the true measure of a warrior is that they offer themselves in sacrifice of defending those who need defending, the weaker.
I think selflessness is mandatory in an alpha personality.
I agree.
Yeah.
Jason, I wanted to there was something earlier that you were talking about, and I kind of wanted to go back to this with a tale, a no shit there I was tale, not combat related, but like while I was it was actually the deployment where Dan and I were on. We were in different platoons in the same company, so we operated in the same AO. At the time, I was in that like team leader, squad leader role, and there was, I'm not going to say actual names, but Dan, you'll know who I was talking about. We've talked about this before. We had this one Joe. I think at that point he was already a specialist. He was an E4. A country kid, right?
Okay,
Strong accent.
Okay,
yeah, you know. Okay. He was going through a lot of shit. His wife that he had just married, that we had warned him not to before we deployed, and he did anyway because she gave him a drunken ultimatum at a bar, and we were like, dude, like that's a flag, man. She wants a tri-kit, but anyway. So he was going through a divorce like month or two into the deployment, right? He had just gotten married right before we left, and then month or two going through divorce. His mind was understandably out, you know. There was one battle we were in where he ended up killing somebody, one of the enemy fighters, and it was, to me, it was a righteous kill, right? The guy was about to shoot an RPG off at everyone. So, but it also, he came from a background that was a little more religious, a little more about morality and things like that. So it was a moral conflict for him as well. He was still a very great soldier. He was on the ball when it came to patrols. He was always maintaining everything he needed to maintain, right? But he was having an internal conflict, and he was verbalizing it. He was in a different squad from mine. He was not in my squad, so he was not under me. But he would come to talk to me all the time because his team leaders and squad leaders would just shit on him constantly. They wouldn't give him that room. So he did not want to go to them. He knew, just because beforehand, during the buildup and the deployment, he knew that I was open to conversations. And I was very open across the platoon to having these kind of conversations on killing, on death, on all of it. And I thought it was very important. So he actually came in throughout this process, and then started seeing a chaplain as well. He was just trying to get his mind right. He wanted to be there for the platoon, right? He wanted to make sure he was good to go. He was doing everything he should have been doing in terms of checking himself internally. His team leaders and squad leaders took it out on him. They started not putting him on positions on patrols, sometimes not putting him on the roster, and treating him like shit for him trying to take care of himself. And again, he was on the ball. He was a quirky kid, but he was on the ball when it came to the shit we needed to do. He was on the ball, somebody you would want to have there. And it just so happened that like one of the battles that we were in, he was swapped out of a gunner's position on a position that he was very passionate and really knew, just because his squad leader was pissed off that he had to go talk to a chaplain again, and like had appointments to do that just to try to get his mind right. Mm-hmm. And he took him off the gun, and the person that swapped out with him didn't do his job to maintain it, and the gun went down in the middle of this massive battle. And it was a shit. There was a lot more to it. And I was fucking livid because somebody ended up dying. And I started targeting his team leaders and shit, in the sense of I was tight with his team leaders. And one of them in particular was he was an awesome NCO, but he grew up in the Army, in the infantry, as like, you get fucked up all the time. That's normal. Yelling, push-ups, like just smoke sessions, like that's the way things are done. Like small mistakes, you get smoked, you know? And that's how he ran the team in the squad. And I started giving him so much crap about it. And you know what got him and changed his tune? It wasn't that I was giving him shit and calling him out on some things. It was when we were on a patrol one day, and for some reason, both him and I were in the same position. And I told him, I was like, dude, I was giving him shit, and I had another NCO with me that was really, really solid as well. Very, very intelligent, very about, you know, being a servant leader. And I was like, your soldiers are going to me for problems, you know? And that hurt his pride, because he wants to be a good NCO. He didn't realize that all that aggression and all that toxic style of just leading and things like that was disconnecting his soldiers, where they no longer trusted to go to him for personal things. Like, he didn't make that connection. He just didn't think it was a thing, because that's how he grew up in the Army. And the moment I told him that, like, that's what changed him. After that, he was just like, oh, you could see the wound in his eyes. Like, he was just like heartbroken, you know, like, you don't say that to an NCO, you know.
You're being a bad leader.
Yeah, it's like, your soldiers are going to other people for real shit. And he was just like, you know, and then he started changing his tune. But it takes that. And that's one thing that I really appreciate, that when you're coming in and you're doing this kind of stuff, and that's such an important thing for veterans, I think, to come out of, especially when you've struggled with this kind of shit. And once you start finding a way to go on to the other side, is that you have an opportunity to, in a sense, become that NCO, become that leader that you wish you fucking had, that would have had these conversations with you, that would have looked out for you. You know, in your way, it's through song. You're bringing people together. You're making their stories become, like, you're facilitating all this shit, so that carries on. And song is a time-honored tradition of sharing tales. Like, that's centuries old, and that's what resonates so strongly with other folks, being open about it, coming out and speaking about it. Like, these stories need to be pushed out from both sides, from the ground level of people who are there, but also from people who are in positions to lead, right? Who are mentors or something like that. Because the moment other people who are in leadership positions start seeing that, and they start getting called out on this shit, it might not always change their tune, but it gives it a chance for that avenue of approach to open up, you know? Yeah, so I appreciate what you're doing, man.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
No, it made me think, like, when shit hits the fan, it is very important to have that mentality, is it not? And I don't think any of us would deny that when it's tight, you want rock solid balls just the size of, and you want everyone on your team, and, you know, intestinal fortitude. I'm sorry, because I know women with a lot in the military who had balls bigger than me when it came to courage. So it's not a gender thing, but you also need to know, like, when to stop that, and when you're back in the tent. And it's like, not having that on all the time it doesn't make me stronger and tougher to always. It doesn't make me more prepared for the enemy to always be, you know, like this.
It doesn't make you better.
It drains me. Like, the only time I need to be like that is in the immediate time of the conflict. And as soon as that's over, and I guess that's part of what drove me to the suicide attempt in 2008. And I came close again in 2013. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm having some shit that had me calling the suicide hotline just for ideation last month, is that, you know, this constant need to remind myself that not everything is solved with a fist and a bullet, and that softness is a benefit, and that, you know, when something threatens me out there, that I don't need to spend 3 days gearing up in my house with the, you know, I don't know, and the constant battle after 17 years is really what is breaking me now, or getting me now, the duration of the PTSD. So
Real
it's,
quick.
you know,
I threw my number in. I'm throwing my number in the chat now. So you don't have to call the suicide hotline. So it doesn't get to that point. It's literally what we're here for. And you've already said you've kind of started feeling that camaraderie in that group in this call alone. If you don't want to call them, you can reach out to us.
I
We can do a
appreciate
Zoom,
that.
anything.
it's sometimes and I'm this is a fault of my own. People look up to me. I'm a leader in the veterans community, and sometimes it's just I usually lean on other leaders because I don't we're sometimes exposed to more criticism. Obviously, with our next CD is Veterans of Color, so I will get as much criticism as I did as a white man doing women
Yes.
war, even though we're doing it in the right way, in a similar way. But
Well, you're always going to get criticism no matter what. Somebody's always going to be fucking
but
upset with
it's
that
not.
shit.
It's you never want someone to take your PTSD, which I
Yeah.
think is an illegitimate attack.
But see, the way I see that is they're unhealthy people. They're people who are projecting. The people, you've said it. There's people who listen to the CDs, and just because you facilitated it, they know you are an ally. So there's no reason for those negative rebuttals. There's no reason for those people are just unhealthy people who are in bad places and not dealing with shit that needs to get dealt with.
It's just like criticism of my management style is fully open, and criticism of the content actually led to betterness. But and you get a real different Jason, and you start criticizing because I didn't get enough sleep because I have insomnia.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we're talking about different things. So if you guys, I don't know how much time we got, but I'd love to talk about what we're going with now before we close.
Hit it, brother.
Do it.
COVID. I'm a combat engineer, and so we're always looking for when someone throws a big pile of metal at my head, I duck and then I go, ooh, I can use that for repairing the Connex. And when someone throws something out, we pick it up and we use it. And anytime someone shoots at us, we try to figure out, or tries to harm us, we try to figure out how we can use it to our advantage. So we had Vietnam veterans. This recent CD was supposed to be a double CD before COVID came out. We had all these amazing songs planned. We were renting the Harley Davidson Museum in Milwaukee. We're going to get a bunch of veterans to come together who ride Harleys and tell us what is it about this Harley riding bikes in groups and Harley Davidson. All these massive and then COVID hit and the world shut down. And the most vulnerable communities we had, because we're trying to emphasize diversity in these CDs, they started leaving us first. So we had an LGBT woman, Vietnam veteran. Stuff is just harder for people on the outsides of our society. Or I don't know the right way to say that, but I'm hoping.
Right.
So then a Native American veteran he drops out because similar thing. Then an African, and then and pretty soon it's down to a single CD, and I've lost all these songs. And so finally I just said, you know what? I don't accept that. So we went the other way. We expanded our volumes, and now we have 11 volumes planned out. Veterans of Color. After that, we're doing family and support because I want to know about James. He's not a veteran. Why is he here? What motivates him to come here? His
Spouses.
Yeah, all, the other people,
Kids.
spouses, therapists, kids, they're all affected by this. And we don't.
That's right.
We're not honoring war. We're not dishonoring war. We're not talking about it. We're talking about the impact it has on the individuals. So that's volume 5. Then volume 6. I'm excited about this one. Native and Indigenous Voices. We just sat our 5th leadership, or we're about to seat our 5th leadership member. So that'll be a complete CD about Native and Indigenous Voices. Volume 7 is Injured and Disabled. So it'll be a chance for everyone who's injury. A lot of people don't consider PTSD a physical injury, but we all know it is. It's an actual physical change to brain. So volume 8 is LGBTQ, Rainbow Warriors. I think they need a voice. 9 is Tales from the Combat Zone. So we're making the public wait. They get to hear everything else before they get the good stories. And also we want to cover in there some of the stories people don't know about, because we have to do stuff in between. And then finally we're closing volume 10 is Women Veterans of Color. And if I'm still swinging, we'd like to do another volume where we actually sit down with survivors, the survivors of U.S. wars. When I was in Vietnam, I spoke with My Lai Massacre survivors with a focus on how we reconcile.
Yes.
I have a Vietnam or an Iraq war veteran who goes over and builds wells in the community he once was destroying, and he built a school. And what does that mean to the children of Iraq to have someone who was previously destroying now coming to read them? So not in an accusatory manner, if you will, but in a how we work together now that wars are over to stop the pain. And that's our CD volume. And every year we do a retreat here in Scottsdale, Arizona, for MST survivors. We're going to start either opening that up to include men, or start rotating all men, all women. We're going to ask the women that are upcoming groups, and then in Wisconsin in the fall we do a PTSD, which is open to all but focuses on PTSD. And
if you need people to stories, I mean, we can post about it. I mean, there's a couple of us who have some fucking story. Like, if you need people to meet up, like
definitely.
to,
If you guys, I mean, if you don't mind us talking about it here in front of everybody, like this is, I like what you're doing, and in our songs recently, we're trying to, as much as we can, liaison with organizations like Project Refit, and and talk about and include that, because it's the greatest thing about being a nonprofit. And it's totally about helping our brothers and sisters. So I'm constantly having to remind people, like, I'm not making it. I'm a volunteer. I don't make any money. I don't want to make any money. No, shouldn't be. Like this is
exactly. You shouldn't be making money off that.
I shouldn't be making money off anyone else's suffering. This is about, it's a total nonprofit about helping and distributing. So we're constantly having to remind people of that. So, but it would be wonderful to work with Project Refit and see, like, maybe we could do a group song, or I mean, just even Mo's story right there, like. That Tales from the Combat Zone, like, welcome to Afghanistan, day one.
Yeah, no shit, here I was.
That wasn't day one. But that was my first. It was early in, and that was like the first thing I experienced with combat.
Yeah, but where's it gonna go from there?
There's stories, baby.
Or even like more of like what Warrior Songs would actually bring. That's a story we share, but like, why do we continue to mask that? That's a topic. Or struggling with I need to be a tough guy, and I also need to be wounded, and I can't do, like, these are the songs we go on. Of course, they're always framed against the backdrop of the true story, but we're not so much interested in just like, so there I was. We're interested in, so there I was, and it did this to me, and it interfered with my ability to read.
And I felt this.
And I'm struggling to get back to life. And also, like, our songs also can cover from the other end, because now my CD is a little different, but these compilations CDs we do, they start with the joining. They go like Ed Tick's model, Dr. Tick's model. They go through the drama, but then they explore the people who got through it. And so there's also, toward the end of the CD, is the veteran stories of, I was there, I got hurt, but I found this method, and now I'm living a real life again. And that's kind of, these CDs create this roadmap where if you're an MST survivor and you listen to this, it takes you through it, and it brings you out the other end, and it gives you a path. And so I say that so that you don't think you guys are going to be trapped into writing, the sad, horrible, worst moment song. It's oftentimes it's about, it's about what you do with that. What'd you do with that? And if it broke you, that's one story. But if I'm talking to you, it broke you, but it didn't.
You're still here.
You're still here. So how is it? And the genius of the reason the Vietnam Veteran CD was so important was I mean, and I can't say, I'm not a therapist or a doctor. I don't have a PhD, but I'm pretty certain that anyone still standing found a way. You ain't doing heroin for 30 years and still being here. You ain't living on the street that long. Any Vietnam veteran who didn't find a way to somehow live with what they went through is either dead, in prison, in jail. And so I really wanted to, and, a lot of them are going to be leaving us behind in the next 20 years. So, but that they all knew something about how to get there.
So with the, you talked about how you're going to introduce us to some of the MST survivors so we can interview them. Would you be able to do that with the Vietnam vets also?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can think of a few. I don't want to say their names here.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah.
It's kind of a rule, but absolutely. Any of our veterans, I think it would be.
I have a volume idea for you if you're up for it. And it just comes to mind. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I spoke the language in Afghanistan while I was there. As a grunt, every time we'd go out, I would talk to whoever I wanted without an interpreter. They would respond to me and speak to me totally differently because it's not through translation. It's not through an interpreter. It's a direct conversation. And it was some of the most enlightening shit. I mean, I was already familiar with, like, my parents came from a similar but slightly different culture. So I got some of the cues, but having that kind of experience, we're actually interacting with people daily in a different lens. I mean, it was very eye-opening. The things that they'll say to you as opposed to through a translator.
I could definitely see that on Tales.
And I can see Vietnam War stories where it's like those experiences where somebody who was in the military but spoke the language, you know, every theater of operation. I think that would be, because that gives you the other side too.
I think we were talking about that I have never thought of that. Like that's something that my brain has never even conceived of somebody on deployment on our side fluently speaking the language. Dude, I kind of think it's like how we don't fuck with like government orders and shit. I kind of feel like that's how it was with them. It's an official person translating, so that doesn't feel authentic. It feels forced, where you came as a person talking to them. That's a personal relationship now.
That is amazing. I would always do everything I could to be put on duty guarding the latrine washing third-party nationals, and nobody wanted that job, and here I am with a gun guarding some other dude cleaning my pooper. But that was the opportunity to talk to them.
Yeah.
I have a graduate degree in religious studies, and I'm in a Muslim country, and I'm talking to, so I got so much out of that, and that bonding with the children in the villages. Like I just, that's something like something I want to do in Tales from the Combat Zone. I think for civilians, they think we go over there and we turn into emotionless killing machines for a year, and then we come home and they don't realize, well, there's like 95% of the time we're sitting around bored as F staring at a rock. I don't know how many rock piles I guarded in Iraq. I never figured out. The one rock pile I guarded for a week. I have no idea what it did that it needed an armed guard, but I sat there guarding it with, So
how many hours did we sit throwing a rock into a smoke pit? You know what I mean? Like, who can get in there? That is literally, I'm gonna say probably 200 hours of my life gone right there easily.
or like I have a story down here. A friend of mine that I met down here. She met her husband in the same AO that I was, Tulare Air Base, in 2004, and then she got pregnant and then got sent home because she was pregnant, and now they're married 17 years later with 4 kids. That's not usually how that story ends. So the idea is love can blossom anywhere. I think we're going with like a flower in the desert kind of thing, because they chased her out for being pregnant. Naughty you guys, and then it's like, no, this is their soulmate, and they're happily married, and so these are kind of stories. Of course, we'll cover the hard stuff too, but But this is for, and the important thing is, like, secondary to our mission is educating civilians, but primary is the truth telling, and that is the truth telling that these stories are important. The camaraderie we have, what we did. We built a volleyball court out of camo netting. And
I think that's also what spoke to me, though, is I think you don't steer away from talking about the shit, which is what we do. And I think that's what reached out to me then when I heard the Trying to Find My Way Home the first time, it's talking about the darkest parts of it, in all honesty, but in a constructive way. It's not like, hey, this is all negative, fuck you, you're going to feel this forever. It's, hey, I felt this is negative, sucks fucking dick right now. But there's something after it.
We often get criticism, and I'd love some open commentary from you guys about this. We often get criticism because we don't glorify the war, and we don't have any songs about patriotism, because I just assume every American is patriotic in their own way. And then the civilians sometimes, they're like, your CD is about horrible stuff that happens to veterans, and they see it as anti-military or anti-veteran, and it's like, no, we don't. We make no comment about anything with war other than this is the truth of what it did to us, and we can't heal until we just. I'd love to hear what you guys.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, though. In all honesty, not
one way or another,
it or the it's because I feel like if you're doing the patriotic shit, it's going to bring far more people that aren't necessarily there for the reason of the other songs. They're there for the patriotic song. Where this is it's a mentally health based project. You know what I mean? I think it's smart.
That had a lot to do with the beginning. I got home in 2004, and Toby Keith had that Stick a Boot in Your, and this other one about, there's like 3 or 4 country songs, and people kept coming to me and go like, is that what it's like? And I was kind of like, no, it's not, and he's not a veteran, and I don't think he spoke to a real combat veteran. He's just making this.
You're giving the everyday veteran perspective of it, where they're giving the movie perspective.
Yeah, and they're telling me, trying to override my personal experience in Iraq with Toby Keith's song about it as if somehow I was wrong. And, you know, it nothing to do with Toby Keith or any of those other.
Right.
But I just thought, you
The
know, hey,
principle.
maybe we should sell some truth, you know, in these songs and this. So, I mean, that's another thing that I'd like you guys to know. And I'm guessing you assumed it, like, this is all firsthand testimony,
Mhm.
living firsthand
Mhm.
testimony. And the veteran is in complete control of the process. We've had two.
You truly are just facilitating the
We are just-
occurrence to happen. That's
yeah.
really all
So,
it is.
so a songwriter can write a whole song, bring it to the veteran, and it's really good. And the veteran says, "It just doesn't tell my story. It's done. It's over. It's happened
Yeah,
twice."
it's not scratching that itch. I don't want that one.
No, it's nothing. It's like, and we've had, you know, we've actually had some run-in with nonprofit people who joined our organization and couldn't understand our veteran first mentality. It's not about money. It's about veterans, always. And you know, and we've done that for 10 years, and now we're trusted, and now people who work with us know, and we don't have to make those grand displays anymore because people just know you're in it for the. We work a lot with the whole health initiative at the VA. I really like those guys, and groups like you mostly though, mostly outside of those groups. That might have been a little off topic.
No, not at
So
all. It's
I
always
have
on
a
top.
question for you. Now you brought it up a little bit earlier. You talked about an attempt that you had on your life that you tried to take your own life at one point, and then you said you had an awakening point. You know, that was kind of like that moment where you were for your life. I mean, can you describe to us exactly what that means to you and what that even that phrase "for my life" means? Like, how did you recognize and find that?
Was that the moment that you were talking about at the very beginning where you're like, I remember the moment, you know?
Yeah, this was waking up. I attempted suicide by overdose, and then and the sequences are a little hazy because there was a lot of drugs. I'd gone out and gotten one of those fights that I talked about again, and cops came. They didn't bring me home, but it was pretty damn close, and just a bunch of behavior I completely condemn and don't want to do, and was continuing to do it. I looked in the mirror, and the military taught me three things: keep yourself alive, keep your buddy alive, accomplish the mission to the best of your ability. My buddies is now my family, and there's this crazy drunk veteran who comes home violently. You know, I was breaking furniture in the garage. It was just horrible, and I had no control, and I wasn't failing the mission. So I looked in the mirror, and in an instant, in this drunken frenzy, I realized, oh, I see the enemy. Holy cow, there he is, right there in the mirror. The one sole cause of all problems in my unit, which is now my family, and the failure of my mission to reintegrate. Look at it, it's right there. Let's take him out. So I started down in 4 years of failed therapy, just down in pills with whiskey. I got about 3 handfuls down, and I went into like I believe it was a coma for about 3 days. I didn't wake up, but when I woke up, I went to the VA hospital, and I'm in there. I also did made some serious ethical missteps with some where it was just horrible. I basically set up a situation where I would have to kill myself subconsciously through my actions. Right. So there I am. I've had this severe breakdown. I'm in the VA hospital. My family's there. And it was in that moment where I just realized, like, wait a minute, this is just like Iraq. This is a legitimate enemy. It's trying to kill me. It's trying to hurt me. I'm not the enemy. It's the enemy. And what do you do when you have an enemy? You learn everything you can about it. Learn how it gets you. Where does it come from? What's it look like? Salute, report. And so that was just. But I really think the moment that I chose, that led me to the Soldier's Heart retreat. But it was in those 2-3 days in that retreat with those other Vietnam veterans telling me that I was normalized. That was it. I really think it was just I needed to be in a room to talk about a statement of peer-to-peer support. 4 years, and I had never been in a room where I was allowed to say openly and honestly, or encouraged to say openly and honestly what it was honestly dealing with, and have other veterans, who I consider to be bigger and badder assets than me, just say, hey, that's everyone's got me. That was the moment. And that was just when, it just reframed it. Like, wait a minute, this isn't just some defect of my being. I'm not just a piss poor soldier or some weak ass failure who can't handle this. And I'm not tough enough. I mean, everybody's dealing with this. Not everybody's, about 25% I would later.
But it takes the blame off you. I'm not faulty.
I'm not
a dickhead. I didn't fail. It's a natural occurrence.
And then there
Our
was,
brain is naturally responding to an
and there was something I
unnatural
could
event.
do about that, because if you're just a fuck up, what do you do? Well, I'll tell you what you do.
Exactly.
What we're going to do in Iraq is put a bullet in that guy's head the first time rounds go off. So, that took it out of that to be like, wait, I am one of many people suffering this thing, and there is a path, and then it's really, now the only failure is not, can I out-tough PTSD, but now the failure is, can I sit here pretending I can out, because now I know I can, right?
I know what it is. How do I now battle it?
Yeah,
what's the path now?
It already got real close and tried to take me out once. So and then that was it. And it was that moment. And then I just decided, and then you start looking at your family and what you would have done to them. And you talk to other families of suicide survivors. So not ever want to put my family through, but that was the moment. I chose life, and I chose because I was able to understand PTSD was not my own failure, but that it was something that happened to me, and that it was normal. I mean, it was normal, and that was it. And it empowered me to help others too, to just kind of. And I'll say that too, to this day, one of the things that makes me continue to choose life.
Love it.
Is that I have involved myself in helping others. I've given myself a mission, and I have taken my mistakes and everything that led me to that suicide attempt is a combat engineer going into the field expedient minefield. And you take your little knife and you find each mine, right? And you go in, and then you put a flag there. And you go forward and you dig and you put a flag there. And that's what this is now. I've got through that minefield. I'm not dead. I'm wounded, but I know a path. And anyone who's done it knows there's a path. And I'm not an expert, and I still step on a landmine occasionally, and people still lob shit at me that I can't handle. But by and large, waking up every morning knowing that I'm contributing not only, to myself and my circle of my family, but to helping other veterans, getting an email.
We say it a lot here. It's refinding that purpose. We got out. We had a purpose while we were in. We were damn good at that purpose. We were fulfilling it. And then we got out and we have dick all. There is no purpose. There is no mission. And you found your mission. You want to help other veterans. You want to help whether it's just veterans, or you want to help other people who've been through trauma, and help them navigate through that minefield.
Yeah, every veteran needs
it's a wounded healer.
Every squad needs a mission. Yeah,
it's funny because that's kind of like, even for me being a civilian, right? Like I can definitely say one of the reasons, because I went through years of feeling like I wasn't good enough and like things like that because of mental shit that I went through and past things that happened to me. And I was like, I am capable and I am worthy of having my own mission that I create for myself. And then I had the support from, Dan and Chris, and now Mo and Wade and Chad and everybody else. And we're on a mission. This is a real war. This is a real fight that we're in. People realize, hey, you don't have to take your life. You can find purpose, right? It's a real thing that's happening. So from my side, I understand what you just said 100,000%, because it's what keeps me going,
Yeah.
I think
it's very similar.
Yeah, there's no greater reward personally for me than, like I received that email that Daniel sent me. It's like, hey, I listened to your CD and it really helped me out. And it's just like, it's a constant reminder of like, that shit sandwich I ate, they're the reason for it. I'm a spiritual guy. I have a graduate student with this study, so there's maybe a reason we endure this, and maybe that reason is so that we can turn around and make sure that the next Joe or Jane or even civilian doesn't have to, and we can change the direction that we're all going, so that maybe we don't have to be in these situations at all anymore. But I don't know.
I was just gonna say, I think I just had. So I think the majority, I don't want to say all because that's too generalizing, but the majority of the time it isn't really suicidal ideations and attempts. It's fantasy escaping. For a fact that is the only, in your mind, the only immediate relief. And I think once I had a therapist explain it to me, that you're not necessarily suicidal. You want to escape that pain. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It makes it less severe. So like in my mind, like I attempted back 2017, I think 16, one of them. Fuck TBI. Hold on. In my mind, the fact that I reached that severity, there was no turning back. That is a severe thing. It's I committed to that. That's the fucking topic now. And then that therapist was like, no. It's not that set. It's not that set in stone. You're not suicidal. You want to escape the feelings. And I think it takes an attempt. You know what I mean? It takes something like that for you to recognize and have that mindset. So if we can fucking start showing people that mindset before they even get the attempt,
and that
together,
Daniel, that's brilliant observation, because a lot of people, and I've even struggled in ways to communicate. Just like I wasn't killing myself, I was euthanizing myself.
Exactly.
I was suffering a terminal, permanent, debilitating, severe injury that no one could help me with. If as I was taking those pills, you know, someone would have walked in with a glowing halo, been like, if you take this pill, all the PTSD will be gone. Damn, I'd have started throwing up right there. It was like, it had nothing to do with like not wanting to live. It meant not wanting to live like this.
Like this.
In this
Fuck yes.
or, you know, pain and you know, and it all of what we've discussed, my own machismo and inability to accept that I was broken until I attempted suicide, and then finally reaching out. Like if I had done that, I think when I first got home, or if that had been made available to me, I don't know. I don't think I would have had all those problems. And that's what we can do for others. That's what
exactly.
Right.
That's what CDs do for others. That's what our retreats do for others. It's all. I mean, the retreats get them actually in the same physical room, but these CDs do it virtually. They get you in the room with the person who's speaking the true story, and
music just reaches people. It just has that. It scratches an itch that regular conversation cannot touch.
And you listen to that song, and you're like, well, if I'm not alone, and I know I'm not alone,
fuck.
And if they could do it, well then
it's literally an epiphany. Like you're having an epiphany because it alters your entire way of thinking.
Yeah.
You have these negative thoughts that you base every thought off of. I'm alone. No one understands. All this negative shit. And then when you have that happen, every fucking thing I thought's wrong. Let's go from here.
That describes my moment when sitting in that circle with the Soldiers Heart retreat. Just of like, and then it almost made me feel stupid the way it hit me upside the head.
Yeah, like how have I not seen this yet?
How I'm like, maybe it isn't me that's just got my fingers gripped into the chair as I'm trying to tell
white knuckling it. Yep.
White knuckling it and sweat So and then of course that led to me going to the therapist and saying, it's PTSD, guys, let's stop treating this as this, and being open and honest. And then they were like, started treating me, and my whole world, life opened up for me. I started living again. I won't lie, it still gets me. It still comes.
Of course,
back.
That's what PTSD is. That's an everyday thing.
And I got to be weary of triggers. Sometimes you forget, and I'm always backwards engineering what's causing me. But man, it's life, and there are times when PTSD is at bay and the triggers are, and it reminds me of what it was like before I left. And that's always what I wanted to get. I wanted to be that kid who had the calm and the non-PTSD before they left. And one of the hardest things is coming to know that guy's dead and gone and ain't never coming back. That's what EdTech teaches. It's a full-on transformation. You're a new individual, but when you can learn to integrate that into your new life, and had a guy once told me he was in a wheelchair from an injury. He used to be able to run, and he said, I can still get upstairs, friend, but it's just a different route. And that's what you are. You still get where you want to go, but you're not taking the same path that you used to take.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
Different stuff. And so I still get life, but man, I do wish they did make a little blue pill that you can take and get rid of this stuff. I've been having some difficulty.
Maybe one day, huh?
Maybe one day. Well,
once they figure it all out. I think it's still a little too new for them to be dishing shit out like that just yet.
I mean, like, unless you count things like ayahuasca or whatever. Like
I would try that if I could get down there. I actually spoke at the opening of the Shock and Awe movie, the documentary, which was about Alaska. And I know some friends who had a lot of good work with that. I know they're doing a lot of great work with psilocybin. I'm not recommending anyone go out and try all these things but there is groundbreaking work.
There's options out there.
They're doing. I mean,
That's
even
all.
the
That's all.
VA's microdosing with like MDMA and shit like that. Like they're branching out into these things to see the actual psychological positives it can have on PTSD and
medical marijuana in Phoenix was opened up to PTSD in 2012. I actually went to that and I was addicted to Ambien and psychobenzapine for a while. So from the VA's had me on.
Yeah, Ambien's a.
Don't. That's all.
No, I would. That is the sleep med I'm prescribed.
Are you on it right now?
No.
Oh God, I couldn't get off.
See, I never got to that where I couldn't get off, but I would sleep, eat, and sleepwalk. Like I chew on plastic like when I'm awake and shit. So like one day I had actually gone grocery shopping and like the square juice cartons with the peel. I woke up and my refrigerator was open. The juice was in there and I woke up chewing on the plastic. I could have fucking died from chewing on that plastic. And when I wake up, I'm not awake. I'm always hungover from that Ambien. And then I was on Remeron too. I don't know if you heard of that shit.
Yeah.
That shit put me out for 15 hours straight. And then it felt like I never woke up. Like I was always like in a haze, in a dream. I sleep meds. If I need, my sleep schedule's gotten a lot better. It has medical marijuana. That's gone. That shit just ran away.
No, but this is I just went here because we started talking about little blue pills, and then that's what they gave me when I got back, and it actually led to I actually think some of the memory issues I have are from the from the benzodiazepines and all this, and the prolonged stress and insomnia. I mean, because I would go 5 days without sleep. When I was doing Women at War, I was about 6 months with 2.5 hours average. Just insane insomnia. And you take that Ambien, you don't even remember, did I sleep? Did I not sleep?
You don't know when you go to sleep either. Like, that's the thing. One minute you're looking at your phone or the TV, and then it's black, and you wake up with the phone in hand. It's dangerous. I didn't like it.
But I couldn't, if I didn't take it, I had anxiety.
Yeah.
And I got no sleep, and it'd be 3-4 days, and then I'd start,
And I never realized how much that affected my ability to function. Like back in the military, it's sleep deprived. I could function happily sleep deprived. I almost didn't want to. Where now, like if I don't get enough sleep, I cannot physically function or mentally function. It's not there.
I can't.
So I didn't know that. I didn't know that with the Ambien once.
When I can't sleep, I can't keep PTSD at bay at about
the control's gone.
Yeah, when a loud explosion goes off, it hits me, and then I go, oh no, that's nothing. You don't have to worry about that. 2-3 days without sleep, that's when it's like I lose that ability to tell it, and then you go into it. But
those walls crumble down, and then it's a dive that you don't really have control over. That's where those spirals really come into play. Is when you don't have the mental fortitude for whatever fucking reason to keep it at bay.
And then in that spiral for some, for most of us, we've ridden it, and that's a fear there. Even though now I know I'm in a better place when I start getting there, I just think about waking up.
What if I get back there and I fucking stay there?
Yeah,
and I can't come back to where I'm at now. Yeah,
I woke up in the mental health lockdown unit once, accused of taking a swing at a cop. I don't remember any of it. Like it was really bad, and you're like, if I start going there, and that's when the suicidal ideation starts.
Exactly.
I'm not going to do this to my family again.
I'm not even willing to fucking go there.
And then it's all based on this fear of what happened, this unrealistic fear. But that's the PTSD
and I think it's a fear of the unknown, though, because I have a massive fear of the unknown. Future events that I don't have enough information, past things that I didn't fully understand, like what we're talking about right now. I don't fully understand it all. I don't know if that's the farthest I can go. You know what I mean? There's so much unknown. Now that's what therapy's for. Talk to a therapist about that shit. You break that shit the fuck down. They're stuck points. They're irrational fears. And once you process that shit, great. But I live in New Jersey. We all are. James and I live in New Jersey, and then Mo lives in Virginia.
Yeah, right outside of DC.
Right. So in New Jersey, I live next to Camden. So Camden is like a Detroit kind of thing. It's a very, very bad, violent area, drugs, everything. I live 3 blocks from it, so I hear gunshots often. So when I'm good, oh shit, somebody's popping off in Camden. Let's see if we hear a car fucking or a cop car or not. But whether it's sleep deprived or not, when I'm in a bad place, I lose control of the power of the PTSD, and it's immediate. That's a fucking gunshot. So I'm sitting by my window. I'm looking, making sure there's no.
Where's it coming from? You start looking at your gear. Where are the exits? Who do I got in my team? Where are my? And you're
are all my doors locked or the windows locked? I don't have a dog, so I don't have an early alarm system. Like there's
like,
a
it's
billion.
A firework, or it's a you know.
And see, a lot of, especially right now, a lot of the time it is fireworks.
Yeah.
Most of the time it is fireworks. But even that, I know very fucking well, they're not mortars. They're not IDF. That's not gunfire. I fucking know. But back here, the subconscious, it sounds very fucking similar.
Yeah. And
so then I go back to memories, and then I get stuck in the nostalgia, and it's a spiral.
Yeah.
When I'm in a good place, generally it doesn't happen.
That's why, and this is why sleep is so important to me. And it sounds, I feel like we're having a very similar experience, my brother, because it's, to me too, and speak to me honestly about this.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be honest with everybody who's listening, but I'm also a nonprofit leader, but I sometimes feel like a mental midget when this shit continues to happen to me 17 years later. I still sometimes entertain that. Like, what? Why still? Recently our AC went out here in Phoenix during the heat thing, and our landlord refused to fix it for like 25 days. And one morning I woke up in a pool of sweat, and we had just gotten some aloe vera plants, and unfortunately the soil was the wrong soil, so fruit flies and gnats. And all of a sudden I'm in my bed, and it's 101 degrees. I'm in a pool of sweat, and I'm starting to swat gnats. And
Yep.
Wow, like man, it was a full mental breakdown. I had to call this. It was totally gone, and I just kind of, sometimes I'm just like, how many of these things do we need to clear before?
A lot. That's the thing. That's the thing.
And I
think there's a lot to clear.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to feel like I'm saying it's not can be done, but I'm just being honest in my current situation. I think it's important for everyone to be honest. Like, you just I start to worry about like how long.
I think, but Jason, I think that in itself is PTSD, and we've talked about that's the point where we consciously have to manage. That's for whatever reason, that's a trigger, a stuck point, whatever you want to call it. That's just something you haven't dealt with yet. That happens on the regular. That is what PTSD is. It's a reoccurrence. It's arousal. You're having a similar situation that happened 10, 15 years ago.
I haven't voluntarily put myself in a sweaty, flea-bitten tent at 101 degrees.
Exactly.
For 17 years. So, but
exactly. And I think that voluntary piece is key. If you are doing it, it's not a threat. It's not an unexpected occurrence. It's not a trigger. Where if that dude's not fixing something for 25 days and you're waking up with 3 different triggers from combat, it wouldn't make sense for you to not think that way, in all honesty.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate you.
No, you had something to say. I'm sorry.
No. I do. It does. It really does. It really helps. This is kind of the talking about it in the peer-to-peer support. That talking to other people who suffer from it, who aren't going to come at you with some like, oh, you should do CPT now, or some VA platform, or just. Like,
I'm actually doing CPT.
I live with this shit too, and this is what happens. And I don't know. 5 months ago, well, I wasn't good during COVID, but a year ago, I'm the guy people are calling, and then every once in a while, it's like you need to talk about it. It just helps you frame it. You get out of your own.
Everyone does. I think everyone needs, especially these types of things, whether you're a leader in it or not. First off, if you talk to therapists, good therapists go to therapists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In my mind, that is leadership in itself. You're in a leadership role, but you're being affected by whether it's your profession, your life. Hey, I need to take a minute. I'm gonna handle my shit real quick. Boom. That's literally how we run. I'm in a bad place now. They've been picking up. We all. That's just what our team does, at least.
Exactly. We always pick up on ways to support each other and really get each other through whatever it is, because we know and understand what PTSD is. It's not if you're not able to do something, it's not because you're fucking lazy or you're not, or you're worthless or something. No, it's not
And
that
it's fluid
at all.
too. It's fluid. There's situations where, hey, yeah, I can do that, and then 3 seconds later, I can't fucking. It's a fluid, and we understand that it is a fluid thing. This is not a
quite
black and
literally.
white subject.
Part of the
And
most-
also, I want to get over to Mo. Mo had a question. Go
Yeah, I
ahead,
was
Mo.
gonna say he adds to the question you just asked actually.
So
Yeah.
it was going back to when you asked like basically, should I even bring this up here, right? And you should, and it's because those kind of things, like one, Dan said it and you recognize it, right? That's those kind of situations you cannot plan for, right? You don't, that's not part of what's supposed to happen, where it's like, all right, this shit breaks, you call somebody, they're supposed to come fix it. They're not supposed to wait for fucking ever. And that alone is going to piss you off. And that's normal. Like anyone would get fucking pissed off in that situation. But on top of that, again, yeah, it puts you back in that feeling or that emotion or that just like the smell or the, you know, like all those sensations that have more of a memory trigger than your sight does, you know?
Yeah.
But it's also, I think, I mean, obviously, like, right, everyone says it, like, it's a lifelong shit that, like, dealing with it. It's not something that goes away. It's something where you understand how to manage it. And this comes back to Dan and I were actually having a similar conversation. I don't remember, like maybe a week ago. And I feel like we're always like, think of it as like we're reptiles in a sense. Like a snake is an easy example. Like a snake is going to have to shed skin every now and then. You know, when we're starting to struggle, right, and starting to get to those points where it's just like fuck, and you're starting to doubt, and you're starting to not like get overwhelmed, and your fight or flight responses are taking more control than you recognize. That's because you're stuck in the skin that's trying to shed, right? It's already shed. You need to find a way to get out of it, right? Let it go so you can get fresh with the new skin. And that's a constant process, right? There's always going to be life. I mean, that's life. Like, there's going to be annoying shit that happens all the fucking time that is going to piss you off, because that is the unknowns and the beauty and the frustrating aspect of life. Civilian or not, military or not, you know, that's just the way it is. So it's a matter of, all right, fuck, I know when that kind of stuff happens, it's going to, that's a moment where I need to, the moment I start remembering, right? Because that takes time. It takes practice. It takes talking to people or whoever you need to talk to recognize, like, fuck, all right, in these moments, when I see this kind of behavior internally, that's a sign to myself, like, the moment I recognize it, maybe I should start like doing things to prepare, right? To prepare to get out of it. That's hard though. Like, that shit takes time.
I have a checklist, and I have some. The minute even the notion, the idea that we should begin to think that possibly suicide might even be something that could be on the table, there is an immediate change. The media gets shut off. Facebook gets limited.
Here's an idea. Do you think you should do? Because I mean, that's the you're preventing the outcome. Do you think it'd be a smart idea to also do a checklist for the triggers and things like that before like suicide's not even in the mind? It's
well, that's why this one was so surprising, because I have never volunteered. You know, I haven't been in a situation beyond my control, being bitten by bugs since Iraq. And it just kind of caught me off guard the way I reacted to it. And it kind of was like undermined my own belief in my own healing, because things like backfiring or seeing we had an incident.
Do you do the toolbox shit or no? Do you have any like tangiable things like that when you're in that place?
I did. And then I got
fell
out
off of it. Yeah,
sure. Got out of therapy and moved. We were going to Vietnam for your.
I remember when you moved. I was emailing you. That's when I reached out to you.
Now I'm actually active. That was the conflict yesterday, and what's brought this back up. I'm back in therapy at the Phoenix VA. If I can share, I went to the Thunderbird Clinic after waiting 5 months to get back in. Got up there, and the dude was like, they wouldn't let me in the building. Apparently now I figured it was some COVID thing, and they didn't. But they had, they got real aggressive with me, and spending 5 months waiting for the moment that you're going to open this can of worms. And plus, there's a construction zone. Getting there, and there's all kinds of, I was a dirt mover, combat engineer. It's just bad. And then this guy just aggressed me. And I told him, I'm like, dude, if you don't have room for me in the lobby, because I'll just come back. It's too much.
Right.
Too much. You're costing this other veteran. This little old lady's crying. I'm next. Like, I'll come back. And he's like, no, you'll get a no-show. I'm like, no, I'm here for PTSD appointment. This is just all. I had to drive through a construction zone. Now you won't let me in the building. It's 101 degrees in Phoenix. You want me to sit in my No, I'll come back. And he followed me to my car and continued to hound me. And I lost it. I went off. Got out of my car. I'm like, dude, I'm on the phone with the doctor right now, rescheduling the appointment. You won't let me in the building, and just like, you're gonna be a no-show. And
it's not the military. I'm allowed to be a fucking no-show.
Like
I'm not gonna get a negative counseling.
Like a prison guard.
Like, what the fuck, dude?
Get away from my car.
So I get a no-show. Check the fucking box, dickhead.
Kind of started to come at me, and I got to get loud. I'm like, and then the cops came over, and that was my day yesterday.
Yeah.
I left the Thunderbird VA in Phoenix after waiting 5 months to get back into therapy because things have started to kind of take a turn, and I know I need to get back in there. And I was greeted by refusal to enter a prison guard, and then the cop put his hand on his gun as he's telling me to, and I'm just like, that's a credible threat to me. When he was waving, get off the
following me to my car.
Well, yeah, this was a different than the VA staff. When I yelled at him to get away from me, the security guard heard it, the police heard it, and then he, of course, thought I was the bad guy. So, this is like what I endured yesterday, and I'm struggling to not They called and they wanted to get me in a different clinic, and I'm like, do I even mess with the Phoenix VA? Do I just go to the?
I was going to ask you this. Have you gone to a vet center?
I have.
What did you not? You weren't for it, or what?
I went to it in Milwaukee, and I just didn't.
Try the Phoenix one. Try it, please. With the VA, I get my psychiatrist is at the VA every 6 weeks. I think it is. I talk to him for an hour, but my therapy is through the vet center.
Yeah, this was.
And so the vet center, I don't know if you know this, but the vet center, the VA cannot access their records, but the vet center can access the VA's. So you don't have to worry about the VA fucking with your shit or anything. It's for combat veterans. That's what it's for. And it's quality therapy, and most of them are combat vets themselves. So it's like that. It's instant.
I know about them, and I just
try it out.
I'm busy, and I just thought I told the doctor.
Yeah, they do virtual. They do virtual.
It put me in the system, and well, I don't like to do virtual because if I get triggered in my office talking about a story, then that's gonna residually stick around my house. Suddenly, I literally need a room just for therapy. Because
you're not even safe in your own house.
Yeah.
No, I get that. Yeah, entertain it. Look into it at least. It's in my opinion, from the therapy I have done in the past 4, 5, 6 years, 5 years, the vet therapy has given me the best. And they do, at least when COVID wasn't going on, they were doing group therapies, and that's where I was with Vietnam veterans. Yeah, so that's where I got most of my progress from. Is those.
I started out there, and how much time we got left? I got another question I'd ask you.
Ask it.
Hit it, dude. We'll take any time.
Yeah. So here's one. I'm also a survivor of severe childhood abuse, physical abuse. This is a garden hoe.
Damn.
This is a car door. These are 3 fake teeth from a headbutt. It's pretty bad. Also a sexual assault survivor, childhood sexual assault survivor. And recently, I was going in for neuropsych because the Ambien actually was causing lasting. I was taking it every day for 2 years, lasting memory.
Oh my God!
Thankfully cleared up. But so I go to neuropsych because they've never done a thorough TBI, combat injury, but never blown up, but close to explosion. So never got past the screen. So I go down to neuropsych, which is right near the comp and pen. And I've been on comp and pen for 17 years. I got it. Unemployability 80% total permanent, and so we start talking, and I usually wasn't honest with the VA about my childhood abuse because early on in 2008, 2004, I was helping other veterans who were appealing because they were kicked out of the PTSD claims for talking about their childhood stuff. But but I know I need to address it. So I go to the neuropsych, and we get to the point of childhood abuse, and I say, for the first time to the VA, I say, I'm a survivor of severe physical abuse and sexual abuse. And she leans over the table and says, how do you know this isn't from that? That's her question. in that moment. How do you know this? Everything that's wrong with you, PTSD, all of this. How do you know all of this isn't from that? From your childhood abuse? And I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, isn't that the comp and pen office right now? Where is this comp? I thought we were here to help me. You know, I'm like, because I was a well-adjusted child, and I told all of my stuff to the recruiter and every single doctor along the way, and nobody ever pulled me out of the military. But it's created in me a fear that I've lived with for these 17 years that I cannot financially afford because I run a volunteer nonprofit that doesn't pay me anything and live off disability. I can't afford private therapy. But I also am fearful of talking about anything outside or predating my military career for fear that they go after my comp and pen.
And that's the vet center. And that's the vet center, dude.
And so I did not know that. I thought the VA could access their.
Nope. No, like I actually went to up my percentage in PTSD and my feet, like last year before, I think it was, and they wanted my PTSD records from my vet center psychologist, and I had to sign them, and I didn't. I ended up not doing it, so that they didn't do anything with the percentage because I did not provide them, and they could not get the information. So I know for a fact they cannot access it without you. It's a HIPAA violation.
I will verify that, but that is wonderful because that has been a fear of mine. Because as I worked through all of the, I spent 17 years, and after that suicide attempt, I got into it, and this is why I'm so upset about this waking up in the pool of sweat, because I didn't even know that was out there till it happened.
Right.
But all the other ones,
that's a new raw memory.
That's the new raw memory, and you work so hard on the other ones, but as I've gotten through all that, I've realized, some of the distrust, and I was primed.
But see, but that's naturally because I do it too. Like I'm 100% permanent. I still think that at some point that 100% may disappear. Like I think that's just us trying to control. It's the fear of the unknown. Like I said earlier, we don't know the outcome, so we can't readily prepare for it. It's not a realistic outcome that we have to worry about. That's what I think. You know what I mean? I think that's the answer to it. That's not number one. If it does happen, that's fucking so far out of our control. But they don't do that. They don't sit there. Oh, he has 100%. Let's see if we can get him off that. It doesn't happen like that at all. And the therapists, at least the ones I talk to, they open or at least introduce or talk about what happened to you before the military PTSD. That's obviously a topic, but other things contribute to it. This is making it worse though. So let's talk about this and that. It's not a one or the other. It's not, hey, you have childhood PTSD. So there's no possible way you have combat PTSD. The people I have dealt with are not like that at all.
Awesome. Because I know that they just started in the DSM manual to move from, they didn't even have a comprehension of complex PTSD. Most of us have, even just from our military experience, have complex PTSD. When I first started getting therapy in 2000,
it's like you get adjustment disorder first. You don't even get the complex. It's adjustment disorder.
They kept asking me, name the one event. And I'm like, it wasn't one event.
And they won't give you the PTSD if you're not naming a specific thing you think is triggering you.
It was a consistent, I don't want to talk about all the different situations, but
it was a compilation of everything, though. You can't sit there and say, oh, it's this one. Well, no, it's these 60.
It's like complicated, So so it's but I know they're moving up to that. But it's just something I think if we're being honest, about our fears, this is a fear that is in me, and losing your distributed function, and
it's losing your security.
I see you right now running a nonprofit show. How can you be 100%? That's what the maker taker people say to me on occasion, and I'm a proud person. It makes me feel shitty that I don't want to be getting free money.
All right. Well, we can go down that route really quick. You're not getting free money. You are helping other veterans and shit. So we had a guy say that he receives 100%, and he was getting the money, and it's like, all right, I'm just getting paid for free. What the fuck is this even for? I feel worthless. If you're putting your time and attention into helping veterans, you've already done it for the past X amount of years. You're getting paid. That's how you're getting paid for it. You're earning that money. You're fulfilling your service after your service, in my mind.
I agree completely. But these are the judgments that
it's still the
back of my head. And sometimes my wife didn't say, "Who says that to you?" And I'm like,
I say it.
But it's a theme. It's a running theme. Yeah, and it is.
That's also, I think, Now, I'm not saying you're not a good businessman or anything like that, or you don't know how to market, but that's also like a misunderstanding of like how money works necessarily, because it's not like you're using the money to just do nothing with it. You know what I mean? It's absolutely, money has a weird, people have a weird relationship with it. When they don't understand how it works, they get stupid about it, right? And they get like, you know, aggressive over it. Money can be a blood to doing something great, and it's actually needed. Like, we never shy away here at Project Refit saying like, yeah, we need money. We need your donations, because we're going to use that money to fuel conversations like this, our literal truck driving to go help people out, plus literally showing up to people and hosting eventually reunions and such for military members, and like building these bases where guys can go to concerts together and have a safe place to go to if they get anxious and they have PTSD, like flare-ups. Come out, come hang out with us. Like,
just having your guys' little thing at a concert.
Dude, at your concerts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, I'll come do a benefit show, because I'd love to see your thing just outside the Phoenix VA. So
that's right, exactly.
You guys' thing instead of sitting in there.
That's what I'm saying. That's why we're not built. So people are like, oh, but the vet centers have their own like trucks and stuff that they're big ass van. I'm like, yeah, that looks clinical though. That's clinical. We're not building something clinical. We're building something for community. We're building something for guys to feel safe and comfortable inside of, right? So it's a completely different model, completely different design, and we need the money to fuel it all. So it's absolutely it's a business thing. It's 100%. Yeah, it's a nonprofit. We're eventually gonna have to hire people within more people within the nonprofit to fuel that growth. Like they're getting paid to conduct a program. You know what I mean? Like, it's like hospitals are 501c3s. Every hospital is a fucking nonprofit, and doctors are making $500,000 plus a year because they're a part of the program expense, their expertise and their skills. So people don't get that. They don't understand that at all.
Yeah,
and that's never listen to people's judgment, because people don't even know the fuck they're talking about 98% of the time.
It's still a fear though, because
that's what I was going to say. I was going to say,
it's like
sorry. For me,
you're going through these. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
And then I want to hear what you have to say. Is that when I am hurting, when it is bad, when I am truly disabled, I don't leave the house, and so no one ever sees me. You know, the public only ever sees me here. You know, Jason Moon. I'm out there playing, and they're like, "Well, how can that's what's in my head? How can this guy be disabled in the fear?" But I'd like to hear what you have to say, because I both understand what you guys are saying, that it's non-realistic fear, and yet here it sits.
But it's fucking there still.
It
does not.
Realistic or
it's not out of disagreement.
And I don't want you. I was going to say, I don't want you sitting here thinking we're sitting here trying to convince you that. Oh yeah.
No. I actually.
We're well aware that it's back here and it's talking to you.
Because it's like you said earlier when you were going up to a comp and I forgot the name.
Up pension.
Yeah, and the lady looks at you and says that comment, right? When you're telling her this, you're opening up, and then they tell you some shit like that. That's going to automatically flag as, whoa, these stories out there that I've heard over and over again are probably fucking true, And when you're hearing shit like that, and that's the response that the people were supposed to, like you said, they're supposed to be there to help you out, to give you that assist, to let you take a knee so you can keep moving on. And they're saying shit like that, there's going to be a fucking fear. You're going to be afraid of it.
But I appreciate that, because this is an example where peer-to-peer conversation. It's supposed to be more of an interview and not an actual peer-to-peer session.
It's okay.
I found a potential solution that has not, obviously you can't go to your therapist and say, I'm fearful that you write down my childhood trauma, so I'm not talking to it about you. Now, don't write that down. What can I do to circumvent that? But it's like, this is where, I mean, we're the people gearing up every day going out, and the people often healing us are the people who've never gone out on the mission for you guys. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
exactly.
You haven't had your hands on there every single day. You know the routines, and you know the ins and outs, and you know the tricks, and you know where you got to kick that thing to get it to work, and how you got to turn the key to get it to start, and all those little tricks and tips that then the LT who's never been on the machine comes out and can't get it to work. So we're those people, or you know what I'm talking about. So we're those people.
Yes, we are.
Today, and that's why we know, and that's why you know. So I appreciate that. It's a good example, live example of how that works. You know, especially someone I'm an advocate. I help other people advocate, but I don't know everything, and I don't
I
know
was just going to
everything.
say, we still need people to advocate for us. I mean, we
And
still need to advocate for each other. That's still
this
it's
is
not just the people who we're helping. We still obviously need our help.
Sorry, Mo, you were gonna say. Were you gonna say something?
No, I think no, but while we're on it, like the way these communications are going, right? Like therapy, talking to somebody professional for that clinical view, that's beneficial in its own right when you're open to it as well, and when you have the right fit, obviously, because some therapists don't
Yes.
suck.
Yes.
Or they're just the wrong person for you. But having outside of that, like these kind of communities where you can sit down and talk, and whether you've been through it, and like you said, like you cleared that minefield, you went at that like 35 fucking degree angle to like find that shit and flag it. And you found a path, and you start seeing somebody else that you're having a conversation with being like, hey, here's a possible route that I found if you want to give it a shot, you know, and they're like, oh fuck, I did not know about that, or vice versa. Somebody else has been through something that you haven't, or you're not sure about, and they're like, hey, let me open up my trench coat and show you this super sweet map that I drew. Like, come on. You know, like I can't guarantee you it gets you there, but it'll be a cool fucking journey. You know, you're like, all right, man.
Well, and it's good. It's good too because I find it easier to discuss with people who've been through it, honestly, than I do with a therapist. You know, there's a power dynamic, a control dynamic, and it's just like
This is all four of us are equal right now. You know what I mean? There's there is no. We're co-founders. We're co-founders of this It means Dick all. It's us four. We all have similar experiences. How the fuck can we talk to each other that we get past the experiences that are still affecting us?
And it's, you know, like one way that I just recently saw how it was useful was I never actually did counseling till very recently. I was 4 years, and it's been almost 7 years since my last deployment, like the deployment me and Dan were on. And the whole time I'm very open about what I experienced, but it's very surface level. You know, I'm very good at like filling in that NCO role and being like, yeah, let's fucking like motivating whatever it is. But I would mask shit, and I would never look at it and think that like maybe I have an issue. And it took a lot of conversations with Dan, and Dan talking about his experiences and some of the things he's feeling, going through, and me like talking to him like, hey, what about, you know, like pitching ideas, and then him being like, you know, yeah, what was it you said, Dan? Like a fucking addict. An addict knows an addict, like, but like,
yeah, like the people you see people in NA and shit. They can pick out another. I can like I think people who've been in therapy and been through trauma, I can easily see someone who's going through some shit. It happened at the bar once. Yeah,
he dined me out.
Yep.
And I wasn't even like, and I'm very open about this kind of stuff and like taking the right route, but I didn't actually start pursuing it till recently, when Dan dined me out, and I was like, oh fuck, really? These are, you know, and that gave me like these kind of conversations, right? This group setting, the peer to peer. I used some of the stuff that we had talked about, and I wrote down notes of what I wanted to go to going into the first session. Because I was like, you know, after these conversations, these are some things that I want to bring up. This is my baseline. Like, talk to me about it from a professional clinical view. Like, give me that take. So these sessions allow, you can use it for both ways. Like, you can use it to have a baseline for something else. Like, all right, I've identified like with the group, maybe something you talked about, like turn the gears for me. And I'm like, is that something I should bring up as well? You know, so it goes full circle. Like especially when people realize like you can start using it full circle, like take notes, you know, pull out fucking pen and paper, type on your keyboard if you're already on the computer, you know, take notes, keep those thoughts there, because we fucking squirrel constantly.
Especially
like this conversation, I've taken quite a few notes, you know, just so
I appreciate it. And two, there was a, you know, as we were just recently just talking now, clearly I was having some inner negative thoughts, and you guys called me on it gently, and you know, like, hey, that, you know, and that if I think if you'd have been a therapist, I'd have taken that as kind of like an insult, but because it's a bunch of people who all do this every day and suffer it, you know, I have no animosity. I'm like, yeah, you're like the addict knows the addict. So it's a powerful tool, and peer-to-peer support, you that's what this is. That's what this is for. And it's kind of neat that we did it. That it had it showed its benefit right here.
Yeah. And it's trickled down. I mean, like anyone seeing this or like anyone you talk to, like actually, I was talking to one of my soldiers the other, like he's a good buddy of mine. He's in my platoon as well. And I was just really like, he was asking how I was, like, how's it going? Like, we were talking back and forth, and I was like, I actually started counseling recently. And I was telling about how I was like, it was good. I came in with notes. It gave me some perspectives that I had just never been consciously aware of. That I guess it was just festering in the unconscious, and like these truths that I had been denying for, again, years and years and years. And then he's like, I think I should see a counselor, or like, I think I've got, and I was like, did not expect that.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. And then he starts talking a little bit about it. And I was like, fuck, that makes sense. Trying to like give resources and things. I should definitely double tap. Actually, let me write it down really quick.
I think it's all obvious shit. We know.
Yeah.
We just don't access it. We're so lost in that negative mindset. We're so encased in the what the PTSD is doing to us and how it's affecting us and the fact that it is affecting us. Where there's a whole other side of it. There's the post-traumatic growth, which is now what we are doing. We are growing from our PTSD. And it's shedding the light on that, like you said. And I think it takes, just like you said, it takes this kind of situation rather than a therapist. Now, there's therapists who have said things like that to me, and I know that they've dealt with this shit for years. So they do have some basis in it. You know what I mean? They have some experience. So if they say it, all right, maybe a little different, but I'm not taking offense to it. Where if it's a new therapist, of course, you don't know me well enough to do. We're familiar with each other enough now that, hey, Jason, that's not really. I don't really see that working out that way. You should probably think this way.
Yeah.
So, like, you know what I mean? It's an actual conversation rather than just like you said, that power struggle. It's a clinician. Oh, you should do. I'm here for information. I'm not here for all this shit. Give me information. Let me change my thoughts.
Really quick, guys. I do.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go
to
soon.
disappear.
All right.
Yeah.
We got James, you here? He'll be here in a second, I'm assuming.
Well, before I go, Jason, it was really awesome getting to talk to you and hear all that and having these conversations. So
I hope I get to meet you guys in person at one of your.
What state are you in again?
I'm in Phoenix right now, but I work a lot in Wisconsin. But I get over. Where are you guys located?
Yeah, we're in New Jersey. That's where Project Refit's located at. But I mean, if there's events, like if you find events and shit, we'll fly out or drive the mobile basements finished out and shit.
I'm in Pennsylvania over the weekend of Halloween. If you guys got anything in New Jersey, I don't think that's far. I'm going to be in Pittsburgh. I think that's what 8 hours from New Jersey or.
Pittsburgh is like 4.5. Yeah, it's like 4.5 hours. Yeah, it's not far at all. Worst case, we meet in the middle. We'll meet. Yeah, fuck yes.
Performing at a college on the Thursday, the 28th or something, and then the Friday is possibly up. But I mean, I could shoot over there for a second.
Honestly, I wouldn't even mind coming to the fucking performing at the college like that. You know what I mean? Like coming to the actual event kind of shit. I would do that.
Let's talk offline. Because I'm working with some other people, but I'll include them. That'd be really awesome. I think what you guys are doing is great, and
likewise,
we all got to just. It's great when you're working with other nonprofits because there's no competition.
Exactly.
If you guys tell me, hey, I healed 10 vets at that event, and I go, oh, I only got 9.
Hey, we healed 19 people.
19
Look at that,
vets.
Bob.
Like, it's just high fives all around. It's a great game. It's a great way to play the game. You can't lose helping each other out. Let me just say before I sign off that all of our the songs we talked about are available free also for download at our Warrior Songs website, which is warriorsongs.org. And so you guys can go there, or anyone listening can go there. They're free to listen to, free to download. If there's anything that is a pay as you can, you just put in $0. That's $0 and 0 cents to get free. Everything we offer is for free. And again, if anyone watching this or any veterans, you want a physical CD, because I still like to have a physical CD, just write us and just say, I'm a veteran.
What's the email for them to write you to again?
info@warriorsongs.org, or there's a contact link to the website, and just simple as that. I'm a veteran, and their mailing address, and we'll send them what we have. Similarly, if it's an organization like yours that works with veterans, that we send them for free as much as we can afford, and we know that fundraising is difficult, so we have mechanisms to take care of all that. We appreciate any support, but if your organization is going to give away 500 CDs free of charge to veterans and you're doing the work, then we'll send you 500 CDs free of charge, because it's the same as me giving them or you giving them. The point is giving them out. So not just Project Refit, but anyone else.
Any nonprofit, yeah.
Any nonprofit that's doing legitimate veterans work. I know how hard it is. I run a nonprofit to raise money, so
we know a bunch too. So once we start doing this, and I'm sure we're gonna have them reach out to us and say, "Yo, get us some of them fucking CDs."
So that's the point. That's why we make them. That's why these veterans share their stories, because they know it's gonna get out to other veterans in the world. So let us know, and we'll send them to you. And and then I'm always available. I perform my 7 Things I'd Say to Veteran. I perform these shows. I'm working on a new program that's all about how the arts have been used to heal veterans from PTSD and all the different kind of ways we've used it. I come to your community and speak. I don't, all I need is a plane ticket and a place to stay. That's what I get paid, and I'll come anywhere anyone wants to listen. So just so everybody knows, I'm Jason Moon. Have guitar, will travel, and bring me to your community. Bring these guys to your community, and let us talk about this in the community. Take this. Have you guys ever done like panel discussions or anything?
We've been on a few panels. Like, we have gone to panel, but have we hosted panel discussions yet? No, not yet.
I would, I think it'd be neat to see this done in front of a group of people, and then and maybe take questions and have some afterthoughts. Just so much powerful stuff to do.
It is
never enough time.
That's a great idea.
I was just thinking, we haven't done that yet, and we really should.
I think I actually that would be in my strong suit, in my realm, because some of my own platforms are beginning to like really explode, especially on LinkedIn, and I think that's where we get a lot of generate a lot of support from that. Maybe even have civilians sign in so they can understand a little bit more of, especially
that'll go back to the conversation we had before, having
especially with employers, so they can understand. Even we could give the example of how we operate, and how we handle each other, and how we support each other in the way that we do, and how we've been able to grow this, even though all of us are wounded, in different ways. Like, I'm a civilian, but I'm in therapy for shit that I went through. You know what I mean? Like, it's all us supporting each other. And I think that's a great idea, Jason. I actually really appreciate you even bringing that up and saying that. We should definitely do that. We do have a strong, honestly, how we
have
work
a strong
together.
Speaking volume between all of us.
Here's the vision I have. Just let me run it by you real quick.
Hit it, brother.
We're out of time, but I'm gonna be in your area in October, so maybe that Saturday or that Friday.
October what?
It's the Halloween weekend.
Yeah, it's the Halloween weekend. I'd have to look it up. 28, 29, 30, 31, I think, or it's so I could come over and I could do like a little presentation, a concert, sing some of these songs, and then we could have the crowd remain over and have an open forum conversation.
Boy,
right
let's go. Jason, Jason,
that's
that's not just a thought. That's a thing we're going to fucking do.
Put out the donation bucket, and we can split it, between the two organizations or whatever, however you want to do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that's
Let's
fine.
do it.
Cool.
I'm
I'll
in.
start an email chain, and I think the music and the performance of the songs would help kind of prime everybody. I know sometimes I walk into a VA hospital and this is Jason Moon's going to perform for you, and I open with Trying to Find My Home, and people are just like, "Oh, okay, wow, we're going right.
This is what we're doing. Shit,
we're going right there. This is for real. I'm not getting kumbaya. I am getting straight up." And
we're
so
getting the nitty-gritty.
we can do 30, 45 minutes, or however long you guys want, because you want to keep them around to speak afterwards. But just you give me 45 minutes, and I'll have every veteran in that room as honest as we can get them in 45 minutes from the music. And then we can start having some conversations. I'd love to invite the public to listen and observe, but I'd love to keep the talk to
That's a whole different community outreach right there too. That's a whole getting the community itselp involved.
Yeah,
there's a couple, like we do that Cooper River Park, we could do it at. Like, there's so many big outside places. If it's not going to be inside, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I'll let you. The logistics is not my strong point, but but I'm in and I'm there, and I think it would be a great work. It would be a great opportunity to just maybe we could break out in small groups of veterans if they wanted to stick around afterward and have like almost you guys could just kind of show your model on stage.
Right.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
it's also, I can't stress enough the opportunity to educate civilians. I think that one of the things that I'm beginning to recognize more as a society, your society is measured by how your veterans are faring or by how your warriors are faring. So I really think that we have to step it up in terms of like the support and the understanding of what our warriors are going through. So and I really believe this could be an opportunity to do that. So
having civilians present to hear these conversations.
Exactly, and include them, not just present to hear, include them in those breakouts too.
Yeah.
So no shit, balls to the wall, get ready to get uncomfortable kind of conversation, especially I think again, business owners, small business owners and such, get them there. That's what I think.
It makes it 10 times more tangible.
I'm in, Jason. Let's do it.
I will definitely follow up. I'm so glad when
all right, cool, man. So let's do it.
Make sure you send me an email and ask for some CDs, and I'll get those to you because that'll be a great way to prep me.
Yep.
Yep.
And then we'll start a different email for TBI reasons, a separate email chain about this event, and I'll include the people I'm going to see so that we don't get any double bookings. But
very cool.
I think that'd be awesome.
Let's all right. So this is what I'm going to say to end the show out real quick. I'm going to say that I'm very grateful for having you on here, Jason, and also sorry to step out for a second. I had to take a call from the police department that we're working with for our car crews, and Wade had to step out. And he sends his apologies too. He just bought food for a veteran out in Wisconsin. He's a homeless veteran, so he had to.
Dude, I thought he was talking about his dog. I was like, he named his dog John. What the fuck?
No, that's the veteran that's out in Wisconsin that we're helping out. So that's why both of us stepped out there for a minute. But all in all, I think this was amazing, eye-opening. I'm really happy we had this time with you to talk even this long with you. It was exceptional and forever grateful for it. And everybody, please check out Warrior Songs. I have a lot of let's go we're going to end the stream. We're going to talk, Jason. But anyway, we're really excited and happy to have you on here. Everybody else, thank you for tuning in, listening. I know we had people who stuck around the whole time. Really appreciate that. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, watching us on YouTube, Facebook, whatever it may be, please go check out warriorsongs.org and check out projectrefit.us. And if you can, support warriorsongs.org, Warrior Songs, and support Project Refit if you can as well.
And Jason Moon's on Spotify also.
What's that?
Jason Moon's on Spotify also.
And Jason Moon's on Spotify as well. Check him out. Good drop. So I apologize. Check him out on Spotify. Follow him. Listen to his songs. That stuff really does help out. And really appreciate everyone. And thank you so much and have a good day.